Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was one of the hollows Hueco Mundo, home of vicious and horrendous souls called hollows. Then he became one of them. Naruto will prove that even as a hollow, life is determined by one's own beliefs, and shake the foundation of the spiritual world as a result. Welcome aboard! Chapter 1, Hollow. Pain. The first thing that came to Naruto's mind when he started to regain consciousness was that pain. Pain that seemed out of place. It was coming from a place it shouldn't have come from. He struggled to open an eye. He coughed a few times before finally managing to complete the simple task of gaining vision. He blinked. It's cold. Naruto guessed it was at least. Truth was, he didn't know, nor could he feel the temperature. He got up while taking in his surroundings. He suddenly found it hard to remember details. I was fighting someone. His vision got better, and he was able to take in what appeared to be a large valley, or crater of sorts. I was fighting someone here. The colors red and black flashed through his mind for a moment before he groaned in pain. Akatsuki, pain, Konoha, leveled, sage techniques, killed him. Naruto shook his head, and suddenly remembered everything. He was fighting Pain, one of the members of Akatsuki. He had destroyed all 6 of his bodies, and with a hefty cost. His life. He had managed to escape the clutches of one of the 2 remaining bodies, and destroyed him with a powerful Rasengan to the skull. He then defeated the one that appeared to be running the show, using a Rasen Shuriken that drained too much chakra and too much life force from the boy. It didn't help that the criminal ninja also managed to stab him in the trachea before dying with that concealed blade he had on him. He looked towards the center of the crater, and took note that his body, along with the bodies of Pain, were still there. He noted several people were surrounding the area. He recognized a few of them, if not by name, then by face. Sakura-chan, Bachan, Kakashi, Sensei. Naruto was finding the names becoming hazier by the minute. He was surprised that he wasn't less stressed by the fact that he was looking at his own dead, bleeding body. Hell, he was pretty sure he hadn't been expecting to die for another 40 years, after making the title of Hokage, leading Konoha to a golden age, and learning all the awesome jutsu possible. Sakura seemed to be crying. He began walking over to the group, but kept his distance. Sakura-chan, you don't need to cry. Sakura seemed unaware of his presence. He frowned slightly, though for some reason, wasn't surprised that he hadn't been noticed. He walked a bit closer, and stopped when the pink-haired Kunoichi raised her head. She sniffled a bit, and turned towards the spot where Naruto was standing. She didn't say anything, and let a few more stifled sobs. Sakura, see, come on, we need to tend to the injured. Tsunade spoke, barely above a whisper. Sakura nodded twice before getting up, and walking off with the slug Sannin. However, before she was gone, she gave the spot where Naruto was looking a second glance, then she looked to the body. The blonde barely heard her as she spoke. Naruto, please forgive me. Naruto felt like crying. He wanted to, but for some reason, the tears never came. He instead settled for a ragged breath. You never had anything to say sorry for, Sakura-chan. Naruto walked away from the broken and battered body, and sighed. It smelled of death in the air. It was suffocating for him. He laughed at the irony of it all. Several days had passed since the battle between Pain and Naruto. Naruto had taken note that the citizens of Konoha were still going on with their lives, albeit slowly, and with a lot of mourning. Naruto noticed that Sakura had stopped at the hero's memorial every day since he died. He didn't like seeing her like this, but he couldn't do anything about it either. It hurt him to see her like this. She wasn't smiling and scolding him anymore. She wasn't studying medical jutsu, or training like she used to. She wasn't like she used to be. Naruto fiddled with the chain on his chest a bit more, and sighed. That was another thing, this chain. Where the hell did it come from? He tried tugging on it, and decided against it after feeling immense pain. He decided that being a spirit with a chain on your chest didn't matter when no one could see you. After a week of mourning, Konoha forced itself to repair and reconstruction, at least, as best as it could. Konoha was a giant crater with some small buildings and a few residences around it now. He wanted to get away, and maybe forget about how much he wanted to be in Konoha. He was miserable, and he was pretty sure there was a saying about misery and company. He couldn't remember at the moment, but he knew it may as well apply to him. 1 month. 1 month, and he was starting to feel weak. He felt like that chain of his was constantly being pulled on. His thoughts drifted to Konoha, which was just over a few hills from where he was in the deep woods. Sakura, Bachan. He remembered how he had felt happy, like he belonged. Now what? His life was just one where he was by himself. Hell, he couldn't even haunt anyone. He felt anger. Anger towards Akatsuki for stripping him of his life, and for denying him his happiness. Clink. Happiness, he faked that emotion a lot. Was he ever really that happy? Maybe, yeah, he knew when he became a genin, and when he was with his few friends he made, he was happy, but now what? They couldn't see him, hear him, nothing. Clink. Clink. I'm alone. Naruto spoke, feeling the weight of every word hit him. Crack. Naruto looked to see the chain on his chest beginning to break apart. No. Wait, it was. What the dash? The chain, it had teeth on it? It was eating itself. Naruto didn't like this. He felt a huge weight bear down on him. He struggled to remain standing, but fell to his knees. What's going on? This pain. It feels like I'm being bitten and torn apart. As the last few links of the chain corroded away, Naruto let a few of his memories flash by. Konoha, Iruka, and the academy, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi-sensei, his training with Aro-sennin, Bachan, and no. The hole on his chest became fully opened as the chain disappeared. His eyes dilated, and he coughed. Gah, what the hell, I can't, breath. His vision went black as material seemed to fly out of his mouth. He saw white, and the last thing he remembered hearing was his voice, or what he thought was his. He never knew he could roar like that. Cool. Naruto felt something cool and smooth run through his hands as he moved them about. His eyes were closed, but he felt what appeared to be sand in between his fingers. Opening one eye, he groaned. What happened? It was night already? Standing up, he took a look around, and then fell onto his two arms after finding it hard to stand. What happened? Naruto thought. He looked down at his hands, only to see two sets of paw-like hands with razor claws. He gasped before running one of his newly formed hands over his face. It felt hard and not right. He looked at his feet to see similar claws on pawed feet. His whole body was covered in ruby red like fur. Right over the upper left area of his chest was a gaping hole that went all the way through his body. Panic set in. This isn't right. He shouldn't be like this. He had a body, with 2 arms, 2 legs, a face of skin, and, holy crap, was that a tail waving behind him? He sat on his haunches and thought, something is not right, maybe this is a genjutsu. Yeah. Naruto held his paws together and focused his chakra. He opened his eyes and was dismayed to see no difference. Okay, calm down, you're probably having a nightmare. Naruto hadn't slept at all since he died. He began pacing around as he thought. Maybe he was reincarnated? Into a beast? Why? He was pretty sure he led a decent life. Was this punishment? He was so worked up over his dilemma he never noticed 3 giant shadows looming over him. Only after he caught the smell of rank breath did he turn his head and freeze in place. Heh, look at this, fellas. A fresh hollow, not even an hour old. Must be our lucky day. Naruto's instincts kicked in as he leaped out of the way of not claws, but hands, and 10 of them. He growled before jumping back with amazing expertise as a massive foot tried to stomp him flat. Who the hell are you? One of the massive beasts with a white mask replied, You really are a greenhorn if you're asking such a question. The beast laughed a bit before continuing, You're in Hueco Mundo, small fry, and soon you'll be in my stomach. Like hell I will. Naruto replied. He dodged another massive claw, and instead of evading, he did something that shocked him even. He bit it. Gah! Damn it! He bit my arm. Fresh blood dribbled down his chin, and Naruto was suddenly aware of something. He was hungry, and that beast seemed tasty at the moment. Naruto licked his lips, and he was pretty sure a sneer formed on his face. I'll eat you instead. Naruto leaped at the massive beast and tore into its throat. It howled in pain before falling over as Naruto ripped a chunk of meat out of the neck. He chewed a few times before swallowing, and looked hungrily at the other 2. One thought crossed Naruto's mind. More. Naruto stared at the massive puddle of blood that formed in the open, anguished mouth of one of the hollows he had killed. He found himself gaining more power as he digested their flesh, and some knowledge as well. He was a hollow, and a rather young one too. He had the equivalent of 73 souls in him right now from all three combined. Staring into the puddle of blood that formed in the fallen beast's mouth, he could see his own mask. It was canine in appearance. The lips of his mask were lined in red, going all the way to the backs of his jawbones. His ears were covered in a plate of white bone-like material, giving him the usual pointed ears of a wolf or a fox. His eyes were a golden color. His nostrils were decorated with an intricate crimson hue as well, like a war paint of sorts. He hated his appearance, yet loved it at the same time. Another thought crossed his mind. If he wanted to survive, he had to eat. Hollows eat souls, many eat human souls. Hollows once were humans, but now they became twisted by anger, hate, jealousy, and other emotions that were bad. I don't want to eat humans, they're innocent. Naruto knew that wasn't entirely true. Humans were sinful, but not as bad as hollows in this wasteland were. I'll gain power, and devour others like me. Naruto knew right away this choice would be the more dangerous of the two, but he'd be damned before he became a murderer of the living. If he was going to kill, then he'd kill those that had no regret in spilling mortal blood. It was the lesser of two evils, Naruto reasoned. Several decades had passed for Naruto since he started his personal war against the hollows of Hueco Mundo. He had quickly jumped up the ranks, and his appetite had only grown with the power he obtained. He had for at least a decade and a half been a Jillian, and those were some of the most difficult years for him since he had arrived. He remembered most of the time being on the brink of falling into his own massive power, and giving in to the hundreds of other warring souls within his body. Eventually though, he surpassed the other Jillian, and escaped from that hell of wandering on the brink of oblivion, and be swallowed up by the other souls inside of him. Then he did something that forever changed him. He was wandering in the deeper parts of Hueco Mundo and came across a group of more powerful hollows. Ajuchas. They didn't notice him right away, since they were actually feasting on some lesser hollows. Naruto didn't know why, but he decided to attack. That initially had ticked them off, but his heightened battle senses hadn't dulled ever since his death. If anything, they improved. After managing, much to the surprise of the Ajuchas, to kill one of them, the others stopped attacking. Naruto felt the power flow through him as he devoured the mask of the serpentine-like hollow. He killed D-Roy, spoke one of the other Ajuchas, who seemed to resemble a bull of sorts. Naruto stared at the group, and noted that he wasn't the only Jillian. There was another amongst them, and like the former shinobi, this Jillian too had a unique mask. Naruto's mask was similar of the one he had as a mere hollow, Amino's. The mask had a fox-like snout, void of coloring, serrated teeth, large, dark eye sockets void of eyes, and two ear-like projections at the top. He knew that he'd have to run if he planned on surviving. He still hadn't finished absorbing the power from that one Ajuchas though. He could feel his power growing already, but these hollows were still in a whole other league compared to him. The Ajuchas seemed ready to pounce. Naruto prepared to move. He had learned a long time ago that he moved much faster than the average Minos Grande. He guessed it had something to do with his spiritual power. Yeah, that's what he learned after evolving into this form. Most were sluggish, and far from intelligent, usually, anyway. Naruto was an exception, and so was that other one. Naruto moved back, and prepared to retreat when one of the Ajuchas spoke. Stop. Naruto raised an eyebrow, or would have if he had any, as the Ajuchas parted, and a rather small Ajuchas walked out. You're different from the other Minos Grande. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Naruto noted that this one looked like a large cat, like a lion, or something, but no shaggy mane. You have a name, Jillian? Naruto wondered why this greater hollow was asking him a question. Jillian didn't speak, even if they had their own personality. I see you haven't fully absorbed D-Roy yet. The cat-like beast gave something akin to a grin. Finish eating him. In his previous life, Naruto would have probably been suspicious of the beast, but he wasn't a human, not anymore. Naruto didn't wait to be asked twice before tearing another chunk out of the dying hollow, and felt the power continue to rush through him. His first Ajuchas, so much more power than that of any Minos. Naruto let out a growl as he devoured the remnants of the giant, snake-like monster's mask. He noted that a chunk of the mask was already gone. I gave D-Roy that. He was foolish enough to try and eat me. The moron, now he got killed by a hollow that would supposedly be weaker than him. The Ajuchas continued. I can tell just by looking at you, you're out for more power. Naruto raised his head, a bit of green blood dripping down his chin. He snorted for a moment before continuing. The other hollow laughed. I'm Grimmjow, the leader of this group. He paused as Naruto inhaled more. You should join us. Naruto paused in the midst of chewing and looked straight into Grimmjow's eyes. They were blue, just like his had been. Naruto stopped chewing suddenly as he felt his body flooding with the power he had stolen from this Deroy figure. Grimmjow smiled. So you were close to changing after all. Naruto let out a howl as his body began glowing. The air became saturated in a tainted aura as the other hollows backed away, all except Grimmjow. He sat there and watched the phenomena unfold. Naruto's body began glowing a deep, dark red, like that of blood, and his gigantic body began to shrink. He felt his gaunt frame began to bulk and reconfigure. He grew limbs and claws. Ray-ah-ag! Naruto howled as the night sky seemed to reverberate his voice. A blast of Ryatsu came down upon the others, and Grimmjow actually looked a bit surprised. This one, he's definitely stronger than a normal hollow. As the howling and spiritual pressure ceased, the dust began to clear. Grimmjow watched as the clouds parted, and he grinned. There stood Naruto, new and reformed. He was similar to his first form. He had a mask that was void of any real color, aside from a red ring around each eye. His mask had become more defined, resembling more of a fox's head. However, the bottom half of his mouth remained uncovered, remaining a red color like his body. Large, razor-sharp teeth lined his mouth. He noted another thing: he had 3 tails waving behind him instead of the original one years and years ago. His overall form was more sleek and limber than when he had first entered Hueco Mundo. His forelegs and shoulders were covered in white armor, jagged spikes jutting out of the joints. His back legs were covered at the knees in armor as well. His upper back was armored with plating, small spikes jutting out where these vertebrae were, giving him a truly monstrous appearance. He also noticed he was slightly larger than before. Aside from this though, the major change was his power. It was on a whole other level than that of his previous form. No Jillian would be able to stand up against him now. You've got a lot of power there. Grimmjow spoke, walking over to Naruto. The fox-like Ajuchas tensed and bared his fangs. He wasn't sure if this Grimmjow was to be trusted. As a rule of thumb, you didn't trust anyone in Hueco Mundo. One of the other Ajuchas spoke. This one was tall and stood on 2 legs, with slender, incisor-like fingers, and a bar-like mask covering his face in darkness. Grimmjow, should he still join us? Grimmjow turned to look at the hollow, and then back to Naruto. Don't be stupid, Shalong, of course. Naruto watched as the feline-like hollow circled him. It seemed to be studying him, looking at him from all angles, assessing him. So, you want to join us? Naruto thought this over. He could go on his own and risk being attacked by more powerful Ajuchas and die, or stick with this group, even for a short time, and have a better chance at growing stronger. Besides, if he didn't keep feeding, well, he'd regress and be screwed for the rest of his existence. Naruto nodded once, and Grimmjow gave him a toothy grin that was more like a sneer. Good choice. You have a name? The fox hollow blinked, its blue irises reflecting the light from the moon as it spoke for the first time in ages. My name is Naruto. Ages passed for Naruto and his group of hollows. In that time, he ate close to 3,000 hollows, or maybe a bit less. However, he felt his powers continue to grow, much like Grimmjow did. The others didn't though. Grimmjow, we've given up this feeding on hollows. Grimmjow, along with Naruto, both looked up as Shalong spoke. What did you say? Shalong elaborated, we haven't felt any increase in power for ages, yet you and Naruto continue to grow stronger. It's pointless for us to continue. We've come to terms with the fact that we're stuck where we are in terms of power. But Shalong, you can't be serious. You were the ones who helped me reach where I am now. Grimmjow looked to Naruto. Forget it, Naruto, they want to give up, fine. You and I will just go on without them. Naruto tilted his head and thought, Grimmjow, are you serious? Grimmjow narrowed his eyes, it's either that, or we go back to Jillian, for good. Naruto looked away, no way. Naruto would rather be devoured than become swallowed up by his own power. Grimmjow, Naruto, if you're going to leave. Shalong began, at least eat part of us first. We're doomed to stay at the level we're at, eat us, and you'll gain some of our power, and halt our evolution for certain. Naruto shook his head. Shalon, I can't dash. Grimjow growled, damn it, Naruto. Don't you get it? We need to eat in order to continue existing as Ajuchas. Stop, and we're done for. Naruto let out a barking laugh. Eating is the only reason I exist, it seems. Grimjow grunted, you don't seem to mind though. Naruto looked up again to the Jaguar Hollow. Don't read into it, Grimjow. Then quit your griping. Either eat, or wither away. I don't care, to be honest. Naruto, along with Grimjow, ate portions of their hollow comrades, and all the while Naruto reminded himself that this was for the best. He'd grow stronger, and his comrades would not revert back to Jillian. As Naruto let the green liquid run down his chin, he let out a satisfied growl. No matter how much he hated to admit it, he enjoyed eating other hollows. Later on, he and Grimjow were walking ahead of the group. They were going at a leisurely pace, having found some time to rest for once. Naruto. What's up, Grimjow? Grimjow looked up to the eternal crescent moon, and spoke, you and I, were different from the others. Well, yeah. You and I are still getting stronger. No, idiot, not just that. Grimjow snapped with a snort, you and I, we continue to search for power, even if it seems impossible. He turned to his fellow quadrupedal hollow, and bared his teeth, you better not give up, Naruto. You're the only one who I can compare myself to now. Compare yourself. What, Grimjow, you're way stronger than me. Grimjow shook his head, maybe a decade or two ago, yeah. You've grown stronger quickly, though. We're clearly destined to be greater than the others. Naruto found himself starting to agree with Grimjow. He was a bit surprised though. Grimjow was far from a supportive individual, in any case. He supposed it was because Grimjow could relate to the younger hollow. Naruto was probably close to 150 years in age. He wasn't sure how old Grimjow was. He knew he was older though, since Grimjow just seemed to carry that aura that older hollows had. Naruto was quiet for a moment before he spoke. What are you saying, Grimjow? You plan on eating me, too? Grimjow actually laughed. As much as I know I'd gain power from you if I did, I don't think I would. Naruto gave a fanged smirk. Really? No. You don't deserve that kind of end right now. He gave Naruto a critical look before facing forward again. Don't let it go to your head though, you're still an idiot. Naruto just chuckled. Grimjow had more or less stated in his own rude way that he had some respect for the Fox Hollow. Naruto decided that for the rest of his days as an Ajuchas, he'd follow Grimjow. No matter what the costs. Rise up, my brother. Naruto stood up, wobbling only a moment as he adjusted to being bipedal again. He stood straight, blonde hair and striking blue eyes piercing the haze of smoke created from the sudden explosion of power that had awakened within him. The man before him smiled calmly. Tell me, my friend, what is your name? Naruto looked around, and was surprised to see a man standing in the back with strikingly familiar blue eyes. He had equally blue hair, and a portion of his mask was left on his face, a jaw on his right side. He wore a white jacket with an open collar, and an inner black lining, sleeves rolled up. The hakama pants were also white, and held up by a black sash. He gave Naruto a brief glance before nodding. Naruto knew right away that his old comrade was that man. He grinned, before speaking to the man who he had learned was named Sasuke Aizen, Naruto Uzumaki. Aizen raised an eyebrow while maintaining his smile. You're a rather lively one. Welcome, Naruto. Naruto nodded twice before realizing he was completely nude. Do I get a set of clothes? 15 minutes later found Naruto with a similar style vest like Grimjow's jacket. It was left open, and had torn off sleeves. His hakama pants were similar as well, though obviously shorter in length. The finishing touch were a pair of sandals, which he was still getting used to. He'd been on 4 legs for ages, after all. I'm going to become one of the Espada. Naruto looked to the older Arrancar. Really? Heh, no surprise, I guess. Grimjow looked at the blonde. Naruto's mask fragments were evident when looking at the teenage-looking Arrancar. It made a half-circle around his right eye, while a bottom portion rested on his upper right lip, with a few short teeth. It continued towards his right ear, covering the back of it, and ending at a point, much like his former mask did, though obviously much smaller. Aside from this, he had red rings around both eyes. The blue-haired Arrancar rolled his eyes. You smile at that even, figures. Naruto gave Grimjow a flat look. You haven't changed a bit. That's my line. Naruto laughed as he looked out to the white dunes of Las Noches Palace. He smirked, it's been forever since I've seen a blue sky. Yeah. What's up, Grimjow? Moron. Grimjow groaned. Naruto was good at reading the man, the same went for Grimjow with the blonde though too. I'm taking Shalong, Edorad, Ilfort, and Nakim as my fraction. What about Dash? No. Hey, come on. I can help you. That's not fair. Grimjow, instead of telling the younger Arrancar to quiet down, decked him in the jaw. Naruto flew into a wall, and made a decent indentation of his body as he fell. Shut it, Naruto. Naruto groaned as he got up, and noted Grimjow was holding the handle of his newly made sword. Naruto himself had a Zanpakuto as well, though Naruto noted that his was slightly larger compared to the blue-haired Arrancar. What the hell, Grimjow? Grimjow walked over to the blonde, and hefted him up by the collar of his vest. I don't want you being my fraction. I thought you were smarter than that. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt a powerful Ryatsu weigh down on him. I thought we went over this. You don't give up. I don't give up. Naruto blinked twice before he understood. Right, power. Damn straight. You're not going to serve under me. I won't allow it. Go and get power your own way. It was only through being by Grimjow's side for so long that he understood Grimjow so well. Grimjow didn't want Naruto underneath his command. He wanted Naruto to achieve power on his own, through someone else if anyone, not through him. Naruto was let go, and the blonde was glad to see Grimjow's Ryatsu dwindle down. So, how you going to become an Espada? How else? Earn it. Right, I'm not sure what I'll do, but I'll prove myself here too. Naruto said with finality. Good, otherwise I'll destroy you. Grimjow gave the blonde a sadistic grin. Naruto thought it suited him well. You wish to join the Espada? Naruto stood up from his one-knee position. Well, I wish to at least be part of the forces, Aizen-sama. Aizen rubbed his chin and thought, I suppose I could see if any of the Espada are willing to take you under their command. He gave Naruto a calming smile. I'll send them to you when I find someone who wishes to take you in. Otherwise, I can always find some other tasks for you as well. Naruto bowed. Thanks, Aizen-sama. You're quite welcome, Naruto. Later on, after his brief talk with Aizen, Naruto was standing on top of one of the many large buildings of Las Noches Palace's interior. He had his hands stuffed in his pockets, and was enjoying the calm breeze that seemed to be blowing through. Are you Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto turned around, hand on his blade's hilt. There before him stood an Arrancar, and a woman too. Naruto's first thought were that she was beautiful, a rare feature in hollows of any class or level. She had long hair that blew in the wind, a light green color to it. He could help but give her body a once-over, and noted that she was both lithe and well-shaped. Looking up to her light brown eyes, which reflected her calm demeanor, he noted a red mark that ran across her face, horizontally over her nose and under her eyes, which he assumed was a natural mark she attained when she became an Arrancar. Her mask rested on top of her head. It was a skull with curved horns, and stood out from her otherwise quite human appearance. Yeah, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The woman remained standing calmly. I am Neleal II Oderschwank, one of the Espada. I have been offered to take you as one of my fraction by Aizen-sama. Naruto's eyes lit up. Really? Wow, Aizen sure doesn't waste his time. So, will you accept? Naruto tapped his chin for a moment, and grinned. You bet, Neleal-sama. He decided that the woman seemed to hold an air of respect about her, and that honorifics would be best with her right now. Nel-sama is fine. Naruto nodded with a somewhat surprised look. Right. He paused for a moment. Nel-sama? Nel turned to face him, and gave him an inquisitive look. Yes? Not that it matters much to me, but what is your rank in the Espada? Nel was quiet for a moment, and turned around to begin walking. Naruto feared he may have upset before she stopped, and spoke. I am the Tercera. Naruto's jaw went a little slack, but he closed it as she turned to face him. Why, you're the Tercera? I wasn't Dash. Expecting someone of my ranking to take you? Naruto blinked, and had the decency to look embarrassed. Yeah, that's understandable, though you'll come to see that I'm not like some of the other Espada. She turned around again. Now, if you'll follow me, I am going to show you to your new quarters. Naruto gave a nod before following her. Something told him that there was more to this woman that met the eye. He wasn't sure what, but he was curious enough to make a mental note to find out. Chapter 2, Love and Loyalty. If one asked Naruto about his first impression of Nell, he would have told you that, well, he wasn't quite sure what he thought of her. She was both strict, yet she didn't have an imposing or overbearing demeanor about her. Calm seemed to be a default emotion of hers, yet once in a rare while during his early months in her service, he noticed her smile. Though she didn't talk that much to him outside of training, he enjoyed the company of his two fellow Frachen, Peshquatish and Dandochaka Bilston. They were light-hearted Arrancar, and made for a good laugh every now and then. Naruto once asked the two when Nell wasn't around if the Tercera Espada was always so distant. Pesh, who laughed a bit, replied, "Nell-sama isn't as cold and detached as she appears and acts in battle, Naruto-kun. She's a rather peaceful individual, as far as Espada go. Give her time, and I'm sure she'll open up to you as well." "Hey, Pesh, I think Naruto-kun has an interest in Nell-sama, don't you know?" The larger Arrancar pointed out, causing the two to chuckle a bit. That's not true." Naruto spoke, a slight tint in his tan skin rising to his cheeks. "She's my superior, it's just good for me to understand her better, that's all." "Whatever you say, Naruto-kun." Pesh waved while heading down to his quarters with Dandochaka. Naruto shook his head. An Espada in a relationship with her Frachen? Yeah, right. Naruto stormed towards the white sands of Hueco Mundo, all the while trying to ignore the nagging voice in the back of his head that said Nell was rather attractive. Focus, concentrate on your target. Naruto took in a deep breath, and exhaled, inhaled, exhaled. His eyes remained closed as he took in a large breath, his chest enlarging to take in the air. The air suddenly felt heavy with Ryatsu, and Naruto tried to keep himself stabilized as he gathered more energy. His eyes snapped open as he opened his mouth, a bright, flashing light glowing within his jaws. "Now!" Naruto roared as a rather large Siro blasted from his mouth. It rocketed off into the Sandsoft, the eternally dark desert. The blast eventually hit a rather large dune, and exploded while lighting up the sky in crimson as Naruto stood in a ready stance, just like Nell had always told him to. The sky eventually went dark again as he relaxed his muscles. He could fire a Siro from either of his hands as well, but he'd come to notice that his most powerful versions of the attack were fired from his mouth. He remembered telling Grimmjow this, only for the Arrancar to snicker and say it was because Naruto didn't know how to shut up. Naruto had gotten into a minor scuffle with the Arrancar, only for Stark to break it up, saying that the two were giving him a headache. "Well done, Naruto. You executed that Siro rather well, though in the future it'd be best if you take less time in gathering the appropriate energy for the blast." Naruto's thoughts were interrupted as he faced his Espada leader, Nell. He stood at attention, and gave a quick bow. Thank you, Nell-sama. I didn't realize you were watching." Nell let a small smile form on her features. "Then I suppose I'm still good at concealing my power, and perhaps you need to work on your spiritual energy sensing abilities better." Alright. "I'll begin that as soon as I'm done with my Ballaprak." Naruto remained in his bowing stance as he felt Nell's eyes upon him. The sound of sudden laughter was heard. Naruto was surprised to see Nell holding a hand to her mouth. Naruto looked rather embarrassed, and Nell noticed. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you at all." "In truth, Naruto, I find your dedication quite admirable. It truly shows your character. Pesh and Dandochaka also have told me that you've gotten better at Sonido. Yeah, they say I'm actually much faster than most Frachen who are at my level of power. Not sure if that means I should be stronger, or if I'm just that good in speed." Naruto scratched his head as he let his thoughts wander over that train of thought. "I think you're doing quite well for yourself, Naruto. I was lucky to take you as one of my Frachen when Aizen offered. Originally, I believed that Stark was thinking of taking you as his subordinate, but let me have you first." Nell spoke as she approached Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened a significant margin. The Primera had actually considered him a possible Frachen? Naruto didn't know he made that good of an impression on the Espada. Really? Well, I'm glad too, Nell-sama. You're an excellent swordswoman, and Naruto, would you care to join me for a walk? Naruto blinked. Huh? Nell blinked twice before smiling. "Join me for a walk, Naruto. But, my train You train enough as it is, Naruto. All warriors need a break once in a while to recover their strength." Nell replied, "Do this as a favor for me?" Naruto was confused as hell right now. Nell wanted to walk with him? She never showed much of an interest with him before now, aside from training. He nodded and followed by her side as the two walked through the dunes of Hueco Mundo. Meanwhile, Dondo Chaka and Pesh both gave light chuckles, their work having been completed. So, Grimjow took me in as a sort of rival and, well, I'd say brother, but he'd say more like a sidekick. Then again, he'd probably not even admit that, he'd say rival, and deny anything else. Naruto laughed as the two trekked through the desert sands. Interesting. I don't know much about Grimjow. He seems a bit barbaric in my opinion. Naruto actually stopped for a moment and spoke, Nel-sama? With all due respect. Naruto started, Grimjow is like family to me. He may be aggressive and even rude, but I admire him for his spirit. I hope that doesn't offend you. Nell was quiet for a moment before nodding. I remain firm in my belief that you were the right choice, Naruto. I may not agree with your view on Grimjow, but I can respect it. He's a strong fighter, though I worry he fights for selfish purposes. She paused to let Naruto take in her words. The fact that you do not sway in your view shows me your strong beliefs, which is a good characteristic to have. Thank you, Nel-sama. While on that note, Naruto. Nell stood before Naruto, her expression rather serious. Although you may be among my fraction, I don't want you to think of me as someone that you cannot associate with outside of duty. The blonde gave her a nod. I understand. Nell seemed to do a complete 180 after hearing this. Good. Now, I have a question to ask you. Okay. Dondo Chaka and Pesh informed me that you were asking them about me. She paused while giving Naruto a knowing look. Is this true? Naruto paled. Well, yes, Nel-sama. Nell took a step forward to the boy, and had to use all her mental discipline in order to not chuckle as he took an awkward step back. What is it you wanted to know? Well, you see. Naruto noted her intense and somewhat teasing gaze. Nel-sama, I was just wondering why you were so distant, and now you wish to talk with me? It's just, well, unexpected? Yeah, I guess. Nell surprised Naruto, and placed a single hand on his left cheek. Naruto, I am not like most Espada. I do not enjoy harming others. I'd rather have peace between the Shinigami and Hueco Mundo. I doubt it will ever happen, but... She shook her head. I don't really have an excuse other than I never was quick to warming up to others. Oh, I can understand that. Naruto nodded. He could barely remember it, but he recalled being alone when he was still a human. If it means anything, Naruto, I'm sorry if I ever worried you. It's just always been a part of who I am. Naruto grinned while sporting a healthy blush. Nel-sama. Yes? You think we could do this more often? I enjoy talking with you. Nell gave him a genuine smile, and yet again surprised him by wrapping him in a hug. Absolutely, Naruto. Nell wouldn't deny it. She had never been this close to someone, aside from Pesh and Dondo Chaka, but those two were like brothers to her. Naruto, he had just recently joined her family. Still, she wanted to know this boy better. Well, boy may not be a proper term for him. Appearance-wise, he was young, mid-teens. Age-wise though, he was probably close to 2 centuries. Nell wanted someone to share her dreams with. Someone she could seek when she wanted a person to give support in a way that Pesh and Dondo Chaka couldn't. She knew that perhaps it was just the ages of not having this that were making her act like this with Naruto, but something about him made him different from other Arrancar. He had a warm smile about him. He was kind, like her, and didn't seem to care much for senseless violence. She wasn't too sure about his association with Grimjow, but she could tell that while he was both the blue-haired Arrancar's rival and friend, he was different. Naruto, on the other hand, was having trouble reacting to Nell's hug. He hadn't been hugged in eons. Nel-sama? Nell blinked before pulling away. I'm sorry, she let go. It's a bit of a habit of mine. One more difference between me and the other Espada, I guess. Naruto laughed it off. Not a problem. Anyway. He was interrupted by the growl of his stomach, and gave an embarrassed chuckle. I guess I'm sort of hungry. Nell nodded. I suppose it's around lunchtime, isn't it? Let's go meet with Pesh and Dondo Chaka. I'm sure they're starving as well. And whining. Nell giggled before giving a light smack on the arm. Naruto, be nice. Naruto watched the fight from his perch on a nearby building as the 8th Espada fought against Nell. He didn't like this guy, this Noitra Jiruga. The bastard still won't give it up. Naruto commented while fiddling with one of the tassels of his blade. A few clangs of steel later, Naruto watched as Nell began walking away from the stubborn Espada. Hey, where are you going? Naruto could barely hear Nell reply, this fight is over. The hell it is. We're fighting to the death. Nell stopped, turning to the beaten Espada. To the death, you say? She turned to look over her shoulder at him. No. You're not worthy of that. You fight like a mad dog. You fight only for the thrill of violence. I refuse to kill someone who isn't a true warrior. You're just walking away because you don't have it in you. You know that I can kill you, you coward. Neutra shot back. That won't ever happen. Besides, even if you somehow managed to disarm and defeat me. Nell turned to look up to where Naruto was watching. My fraction would have been ready to help me. Get it through your head, Neutra. We're Espada, not enemies, unless you wish to change that. The tone of her voice could have frozen the very air around them from how severe it sounded. Neutra looked up at Naruto and sneered, "TCH, that brat? You think he could beat me?" Nell turned around to leave and sighed, "Neutra, see to it that you never bug me again about fighting." With a quick sonido, she vanished. Naruto gave Neutra a quick wave with his trademark grin and disappeared in a similar fashion. Neutra growled as he turned to leave the open area where he had been fighting, Tesla following behind. That woman, who does she think she is? Neutra-sama, she is the Tercera Espada. I realize that, you moron. Neutra roared, she doesn't realize though that she doesn't belong above me. No woman does in an army. Tesla decided to remain quiet. He may not have shared the same views of his chauvinistic leader, but he still respected the eighth Espada. Not to mention she has that lapdog of a fraction with her. He's nothing more than a young whelp, yet she claims he could pose a threat to me? With all due respect, Neutra-sama, Aizen-sama has claimed that he is rather strong, for a fraction. Tesla stated, hoping that his leader wouldn't go and thrash him. Neutra stopped in his tracks, and nodded, that's true. He had a thoughtful expression on his face as he continued walking again. There must be a way to defeat Neleal though. With these thoughts in mind, he headed back to think of a plan that would bring the green-haired Arankar to her ultimate defeat. Next time he annoys you, Nell-chan, just let me know and I'll give him a foot up his dash. Naruto, that's not necessary. It'd be a waste of time to fight a disgrace like him. Nell spoke as she headed into her chambers with Naruto. Besides, I'd hate to have to clean you up after you fight someone like him. Naruto shot her a betrayed look. You don't think I could fight him? Nell laughed, Naruto-kun, as much as I respect your strength, Neutra is an Espada for a reason. Though, I would be safe to say that you could probably match one of 9th or 10th ranking. Really? Nell smiled while walking ahead. It had been little less than a decade since Naruto had become Nell's third fraction, and less than 2 years since they had secretly started a romantic relationship with each other. Well, Pesh and Dondochaka were aware of the two and their relationship. Aside from those two, that was it as far as they knew. The minute the door shut behind Naruto, he wrapped his arms around Nell's waist while breathing on her neck. He was only a few inches shorter than her, but she was quite tall. Naruto. She almost whined, not now, please. Naruto let a small smile cross his lips as he kissed the back of her neck tenderly before letting go. My apologies, Nell-sama. Nell turned around and gave him a pout. Can't you wait for us to get settled in? I want to eat too. Naruto gave her an embarrassed smile. Sorry, it's just, well, you know. Nell shrugged. I know, you can't help yourself when it comes to me. She let a small smirk cross her face. Besides, I thought we agreed that I decide when we can get friendly like that? Naruto huffed, that's because I'm the fraction. It's only fair. I mean, you are my superior. Nell took a few steps so that she was right in front of Naruto, her arms wrapping around his shoulders. I think I also recall you saying once that you have a thing for dominant women, am I right? Naruto went beet red as Nell gave him a half-lidded smile. So, you don't have a problem with me when I'm... She pressed against him a bit of a control freak, do you? Naruto snorted as Nell dropped her seductive look and grinned. They did this all the time with each other. In all honesty, they did care for each other, but they never went beyond the simple physical stuff and doing things together like any young couple would. I don't know about you, Dondochaka, but I'd say the two lovebirds are made for each other. Nell and Naruto froze in place, and a gruffer voice spoke in reply. Yeah, I suppose, though I still think that Naruto is still too young to be Dash. I'm almost 200 years old, Dondochaka. Give me a break. Naruto snapped while Nell giggled a bit. Pesh and Dandochaka joined the laughter as Naruto folded his arms together and gave the two older Fraction a withering glare, which was promptly cleared away when Nell pecked him on the cheek. Naruto-kun, stop worrying so much. You know we tease you because we care. After a quick meal, Naruto decided to get some training in before the day was done. Nell, while she considered her style of fighting a bit too reliant on speed for Naruto, did teach him the basics. She left it to him to learn how to adapt what she taught him to create his own style. Naruto stood on a rather large dune and calmly surveyed his surroundings. He took in a few deep breaths before disappearing with the blur of his sonido. He reappeared on top of a building and watched with a degree of satisfaction that the sand was still moving from the spot that he had taken off from. Nell could have done that with her eyes closed though. Naruto was aware of that. Most of the Espada could. Naruto began to race through the desert of Las Noches, feeling the wind whip at him as he kicked up speed. He was well aware that he was being watched after some time. He stopped, spun around, and held up a hand to catch a fist. Heh, not bad, Baka. Naruto grinned back at the blue-haired man. Hey, Grimmjow. You really ought to learn how to suppress that Ryatsu better before you attack. It's like a warning beacon for me. Grimmjow snorted indignantly before taking a step back and giving Naruto an appraising look. You've gotten faster. Naruto shrugged. Nell-sama is a good teacher. Grimmjow snickered. Yeah, plus I'm sure she's an animal in the sack. Naruto's eye twitched. There's nothing between us. Get that through your head, or I'll blast a bala in your skull so that it'll get through to you. Grimmjow laughed heartily before calming down. Right. He straightened up and shoved his hands into his pockets. Heh, still the idiot I always knew. The taller Arrancar started walking, an indication for Naruto to follow. Naruto shot Grimmjow a one-fingered salute before falling in step. So, what's up? Aizen's thinking of giving some new promotions in a couple of years. Naruto laughed. Wow, maybe Aizen's getting desperate? What about the originals? Is he throwing them into the triple digits? TCH, they're a waste of space if you ask me. Well, Eren Yaro isn't that bad, and he's been around for a while too. Naruto grinned as he turned to Grimmjow. Besides, you yourself aren't an Espada, if I recall correctly. You're asking for a left hook to the face, Gaki. Grimmjow sneered. Why aren't you taking one of the Espada positions yet? I don't know. I guess I'm content serving Nell-sama for now. HN. Figures. Just don't get lazy on me. Naruto raised an eyebrow while feinting confusion. Me? Lazy? Come on, Grimmjow, really? Grimmjow said nothing as he stopped on a site overlooking the dunes. He remained for quite some time, watching as the sand blew over the area once in a while. Hey, Grimmjow? What? What do you think Aizen plans to do with us after he's gotten his goals accomplished? Grimmjow shrugged. Don't care. I only give a damn about him because he's more powerful than the rest of us. Naruto sighed. Typical Grimmjow, only focused on his goals, and maybe the few people he trusted. The older Arrancar didn't really think about long-term ideas, being more of a here-and-now person. I better get back to my training. Nell-sama expects to have a sparring session with me by the end of the month. I'm not letting her thrash me so easily this time. Naruto replied as he headed towards his training spot. Grimmjow. Grimmjow turned to see Naruto with his hands twitching a bit. A sign of nervousness. What now? Keep an eye on the Espada, and Aizen. Something tells me there's going to be some serious stuff happening in the years to come. Grimmjow blinked twice before snickering again, but gave a nod. Whatever, I'll keep an eye out. Naruto disappeared with a quick wave, the flickering sound of him moving at high speed being the only indication that he was ever there. Grimmjow looked over the desert one last time before heading back as well. He was going to become an Espada. He wouldn't settle for anything less. Naruto was back in the main chambers of Nell's building several hours later. He noted that it was uncharacteristically quiet. Hey! Dandochaka, Pesh, Nell-chan. Anyone here? Naruto barely had time to react as a pair of arms wrapped around him from behind. He felt hot breath brush over his neck, and he laughed. Okay, we're even. Nell ran a single hand down Naruto's chest while pressing her forehead against the back of his own head. Dandochaka and Pesh went to do some late training. They won't be back for several hours. Naruto shivered as Nell stopped her hands right over the sash holding his pants up. Nell-chan. Naruto turned to face her, and spoke in a strained whisper. Why do you have to be such a tease? Nell smirked and tightened her hold of Naruto from behind. Maybe you should try and show some backbone against me for once. Naruto turned around, and soon the two were in a war of lip lock. Somehow, they managed to walk down the hall towards Nell's room while still in their small competition. The door closed as Nell locked it. Naruto stopped and looked to Nell. She never did that before, she always just closed it, or left it partly open. It's not like Dondo Chaka and Pesh didn't respect their privacy during their little makeout sessions. Nell actually looked a bit uncertain for a moment, but forced a smile on her face. Naruto, we've been together for close to 2 years. 2 years and 4 months. Nell laughed, right, anyway. She brushed a hand over the blonde's face, admiring his handsome features, and the unique whisker marks of his. I feel that. That what, Nell-chan? Naruto was a bit worried. Nell rarely stumbled on words. She usually kept her calm, caring demeanor about her when outside of battle. Naruto, I love you. I know it sounds strange, and Arankar, and love. Not really. Naruto replied, giving Nell a grin. I love you as well. Nelial tu Oderschwank. The drop of the suffix made her realize how serious Naruto really was. It scares me now, but I think about it. Nell's grip tightened over him, and she felt scared to speak. Naruto? How much do you love me? Naruto didn't miss a beat. I'd die for you all over again, if I had to. Nell smiled, same here. She pressed a hand on his chest, and her eyes looked away. Are you happy? Serving as my fraction? Naruto laughed. Nell-chan, what with the stupid questions? I feel like I'm the luckiest Arankar in all of Hueco Mundo. The most beautiful creature in all of Las Noches, no, all of the afterlife and even Siriidii, is right in front of me, and she loves me. Nell bit her upper lip, and Naruto found himself admiring her larger than normal incisors. He started worrying though when she trembled a bit as he touched her shoulder. Nell-chan? What's wrong? Nell looked into his eyes, and she felt like her soul was being peered into. How could she tell him? How? She didn't know if he felt that strongly about her. She leaned into his ear and spoke quietly. His eyes widened as she finished speaking, and he felt his jaw go slack. And Nell-chan, I meant what I said. She smiled as she held him closer, practically shaking as he felt his own grip tighten. If you don't feel ready for dash. Naruto instead replied by capturing her lips with his, and she gave out a quiet moan as he picked her up, pressing her against the wall. She felt strong fingers slide their way up her shirt. Ah, Naruto. Naruto pulled away for a moment, and smiled. Nell, you don't have to be afraid to be this way with me. He grinned, a small blush on his face. I'm just surprised you're the one who asked me first. Nell let her smile grow. I guess it was a matter of time. Are you sure you want this? Positive, she replied, and kissed his lips once again. I've wanted you. Again she captured his lips, for a while. Naruto couldn't help but shake a bit at those words. She wanted him. Man. If that didn't sound sexy, then he didn't know what was. The two soon found themselves intertwined with each other. It was a blur that Naruto had never experienced before, in life or death, and he couldn't help but relish in every moment of it. 1 hour later found Naruto and Nell laying in the afterglow of what had just transpired in the room. He felt exhausted, and like he could take on the world at the same time. Nell moved a bit, and he felt her circle a finger around the hole over his right pectoral muscle while giving him a few kisses on his neck. Hey, I wish you'd show this opening in your chest more. It's sexy. Naruto rolled over so he was facing her directly. I beg to differ. He ran a hand over her side, letting it rest over her back where her ranking number was tattooed. You're much sexier than I am. I would hope so, she laughed, and crawled on top of the blonde, her skin pressing against his. Naruto, you okay? Naruto was blushing profusely, and his breathing was a bit quicker. He couldn't help it, even after what they had just done, he still felt nervous when she gave him contact like this. I guess I'm still trying to get over how flawless you are. Nell giggled a bit before pressing her lips over his eyes as he closed them. Well, just remember that this is just as wonderful for me. She felt Naruto snake his hands around her hips. Although I still can't believe that you growled a little. It was cute. Naruto pouted. Cute. Nell stuck out her tongue. Yes, cute. Naruto felt a bit insulted. I'm the fraction of the third espada. I can't be cute. Nell found her tongue captured in Naruto's mouth, and for the upteenth time that night, the two were warring with their tongues. Naruto ran his tongue over her incisors and she let out whimper as he drew small circles over the small of her back. For the cool and calm demeanor she displayed on the outside, she sure was a rather sensitive woman. Eventually, the two fell asleep wrapped in each other's embrace. Nell couldn't help but wonder how the blonde was so warm all the time. He explained once to her that he believed it had something to do with when he was a human. He had something inside him, but he wasn't sure what it was, though. She left it at that, though. To her, he was perfect the way he was. She silently wished that she'd be able to live like this for the rest of her existence. With Naruto, the sound of light snoring from the blonde brought a sense of peace to her. She was sure that Pesh and Dandochaka would suspect something, though she was certain they wouldn't say a thing about it. It had been close to 40 years since he had become Nell's fraction. It had been close to 38 or so since he and Nell had become intimate with each other. Naruto seriously wondered if that saying about time flowing faster as you aged was true. He was starting to believe it. Naruto stood at attention as Nell spoke to him. Yes, Nell-sama? You know our objective? Yes, we're to give Aizen-sama an analysis of the town of Karakura, and report the potential for his plans. Naruto repeated in a scripted voice. Nell gave him a nod before turning to the other member of their group. Stark-sama, you have seniority over me here and outrank me, so I believe that gives you leadership. Nell gave the male Arrancar a smile, and he nodded. Sure thing, Nell-san, spoke the taller of the two Espada. I'd rather just relax, but I guess we don't have a choice in the matter. What a pain! Naruto gave the man a flat look when his back was turned, and spoke quietly to Nell. How the hell did someone like him ever become the Primera? Nell gave Naruto a sharp look, and smacked him upside the head, speaking in a harsh whisper. Don't speak of Stark-sama in such a manner, Naruto. He's more powerful than any of the other Espada. Stark surprised them both with a chuckle. It's okay, Nell-san. I like the boy's honesty. He gave Naruto a nod, causing Nell to give a shameful and apologetic look. Naruto gave a bow. My deepest apologies, Stark-sama. I was out of line with that comment. Stark his gloved hand dismissively. I said it's okay. I know I'm lazy. I guess I just happened to be given ill luck with my ranking. Nell sighed in relief, and gave Stark a bow of her own. Naruto's known for speaking his thoughts. He's an honest and honorable Arrancar, but he really could use work on his manners. I've tried for close to 30 years, and he still has yet to learn. I beg to differ. He's got a personality of his own, which is something uncommon in subordinates. Most tend to be followers who are afraid to voice their opinion. He gave Naruto a lazy smile. You're okay, Uzumaki. Naruto's eyes widened. You know my name? Stark laughed as he opened up a rip in space to Karakura with Garganta. I should hope so. Nell-san is only speaking highly of you whenever she's among the other Espada. Stark started walking towards the gaping hole in space as the other two followed. Naruto flushed red as Nell smiled a bit as Stark's words sunk in. Naruto chanced a glance to Nell, and she gave him a friendly wink before they continued into the dark tunnel. Naruto, you alright? Naruto was unresponsive as Nell poked at his arm a bit. He shook his head, and came back to reality. Huh? Oh. Sorry, Nell-sama. I have never seen a human settlement like this before. Actually, it's been ages since I've seen humans at all. Nell gave Naruto a soft squeeze from her hand on his shoulder. I know what you mean. The two walked through the streets of Karakura, masking their presence lest they wished to have a Shinigami attack. Naruto had never met one, but Nell had stated that they were indeed real. She had given Naruto a strict order to avoid causing any problems at all while they were in the human world. Hey, Nell-sama, look. Nell looked to see Naruto pointing at a group of kids. Yes, those children seem to be having fun, aren't they? Naruto laughed. He hadn't seen any children in ages as well. He sighed. I find it hard to believe that hollows feed on human souls. Nell gave Naruto a frown, but it was filled with understanding. Well, you were a hollow too and one still are, too. You're just more powerful, and I guess more cultured too. It's difficult to place us in the same category as other hollows though. I fed on other hollows only. I never once touched a human soul. That's very honorable of you, Naruto. The two soon lifted off the ground and were soon greeted by Stark. So, what did you find? Nell spoke. There's a fairly large amount of children attending a school a few blocks from here, and I can sense a few strong souls here, none that are really worth noting as of yet, but they're still there. Stark gave a nod and looked to Naruto. How about you, Naruto? Naruto was a bit surprised to have the Arrancar talk to him directly, but gave a nod. Well, this is the largest amount of humans I have ever seen before. That's not too surprising. Karakura is a rather large city. Stark gave a sigh. I just wish I knew what Aizen wanted with this place. The female Arrancar gave a nod as well. He's been absent more and more often too. Until today, when he returned with orders. It's been close to a year and a half now since he last was in Las Noches. Stark made another garganta while the others followed close behind him. The sooner they got out of enemy territory, the better. Is there anything else of note? Stark shook his head as he stood before Aizen with Nell at his side. Naruto stood in the back of the chamber, seeing as he was already doing more than what most fraction were really allowed by entering the chambers of the Espada leader during a meeting. There are many humans in Karakura, Aizen-sama, though I wouldn't tag the place as a metropolis. It's still having some suburban aspects to it that give it open space as well. Nell added, I would guess there is at least several tens of thousands of humans there. Aizen smiled at his two stronger Espada, and gave them both a nod. Very well. I appreciate this information, it will definitely be helpful. The fact that there is already a high level of hollow presence there is a good sign of spiritual life force there. His smile never wavered as he looked beyond the two to Naruto. Ah, Naruto-kun. How are you doing? Naruto blinked twice before standing straight and giving a bow. Aizen-sama. He looked up. I actually found the trip to Karakura interesting. I've never seen a city of such size before. Aizen gave a quick chuckle. Yes, it is a fairly large settlement for humans, isn't it? He stood up, and the two Espada parted as he walked towards Naruto. Uzumaki, I have a special assignment for you in particular. Me? Aizen nodded as he stood before the blonde. You're a unique Arrancar. You show your emotions easily. While most would consider this a weakness for your kind, I believe it can prove to be your strength in what I'm going to ask of you. What would that be, Aizen-sama? Nell too was curious, and a tad bit worried. Solo missions, if this was going to be one, tended to be either long-term or very dangerous. She watched as Aizen placed a hand on Naruto's left shoulder and kneeled down a bit so he was eye level with the blonde. I would like you to go undercover in Karakura and monitor its inhabitants. Nell and Stark both tensed a bit. How would that be possible? Was it? Naruto was an Arrancar, how could he blend in with normal humans? Is that possible, Aizen-sama? Aizen gave Naruto a small grin as he stood at full height. It is, and seeing as you seem to still possess most of the human emotions that we carry in life that hollows either lose or don't express, I think you'll fit in perfectly. Naruto gave a nod to his highest authority figure and spoke with confidence. As you wish, Aizen-sama. Aizen nodded again as he headed back to his throne. Good. I have a jigai that I have modified a bit so that it can suit your hollow powers, although I wouldn't recommend you display those powers at all in the time you're in Karakura. These jigai aren't long-term usage, so they'll be unable to hold your powers in for too long. You'll be in Karakura for a month's time, and at the end of the month I'll have one of the Espada or myself find you, and then you shall return to Hueco Mundo. Naruto gave a final nod before he and the other two were dismissed. Naruto lay in the bed that he had been sharing with Nell for the better part of 2 decades. Nell had claimed that it was their own business on how they lived, and besides, no one entered her quarters anyway aside from the third Espada herself and her 3 fraction. Promise me you won't lose your temper? Naruto laughed as he turned to face Nell, who had a single silk sheet covering her, outlining her curves perfectly. Nell-chan, I promise, for the 5th time. Nell frowned, and pulled Naruto close to her. I don't like this. I've never heard of this kind of situation before. Aizen usually leaves the fraction to the Espada. I've never heard of him doing this before. Not even Stark's seen anything like this before. Naruto wanted to say that she was overreacting, but he understood. Nell, you taught me everything I know about swordsmanship, and I'm one of the best fighters in the fraction forces. I'll be fine, okay? Nell nodded before planting a chaste kiss on his lips. It's going to be a long month without you. Naruto pressed his forehead against hers, feeling the hardened surface of her skull mask remains on his skin as he brushed his masked cheek against hers. Nell-chan, don't worry, I'll be back before you know it. You better, the green-haired beauty replied as she ran a hand through his blonde locks. Pesh and Dondo Chaka will start fearing that you're dead if you take too long. Naruto and Nell were soon sleeping peacefully, both anxious about tomorrow and what it would bring about. The next morning Naruto was up earlier than usual. He stood outside of Nell's chambers, looking at the white dunes as the calmly blew in the wind. He would never admit it, but he sorts of liked the tranquility of Las Noches. Although, he wouldn't mind a bit more color in his world than just white and blue expanses. Well, look who's up earlier than usual. Naruto turned to see Pesh standing outside of the entrance to their home. Hey, Pesh. Pesh gave a wave as he stood next to the blonde. So, you're going to that Karakura place or whatever, eh? Naruto gave a shrug. I guess so. I don't know why Aizen-sama's not sending someone more qualified for this. I mean, yeah, I can socialize, but so can you and Dandochaka. Pesh let out a hum as he thought, well, maybe you're not giving yourself the credit you deserve, Naruto. Heh, oh don't tell me you think I'm fit for this too. Pesh raised his hands in surrender. What can I say? You're just too amazing, Naruto. Naruto laughed as he returned to his view of the desert. I know it goes without asking, but please watch over Nelchan while I'm gone. Of course. Several hours later found Naruto standing at the entrance of a Garganta while holding onto a Jigaive himself. Aizen, as well as Nell and a few of the other Espada and Arrancar, watched as Naruto got ready to leave for Karakura. Remember, Naruto. Within a month's time, we'll find you and then you'll return here. Just keep your senses about you. Aizen spoke as Naruto entered the portal into the human world. He looked one last time at the others, giving a small smile to Nell. He locked eyes with her, and he imprinted her smile into his memory. He wouldn't forget her face, he'd make sure of it. Grimmjow gave Naruto a nod as he did likewise, and took in a deep breath. He walked through the dark tunnel, and it closed slowly on him. It was a bit of a problem. Naruto wouldn't be able to return if he really had to. Though he could easily use Garganta like any other Hollow or Arrancar, Aizen had requested that he not. This would draw unneeded attention, and no doubt as soon as he entered, there would be alarms sounding in Soul Society when he finally set foot in Karakura. As the portal disappeared, Nell suppressed a sigh. Come back safe, Naruto. It would be in that month that everything changed for Naruto Uzumaki as an Arrancar and Fraction. Naruto landed in an alleyway of Karakura, and quickly entered his modified Jigai as he felt a few presences flare up in the surrounding area. Must be the Shinigami. Naruto guessed as he walked out of the alleyway. He was amused to see that he looked human. Looking in a window, he saw that his mask and hollow hole were absent from view. It was interesting, he also felt no high traces of spiritual pressure coming off of him. Just that of any normal human. Aizen was a genius. Naruto wouldn't deny it. He just hoped that this disguise would work for the duration of a month. Naruto looked to the sky to see several figures in black robes fly past him over the rooftops. I don't get it, I swear there was a hollow signal here just a moment ago. The other figure replied in a distressed tone, well, we better keep looking. Some of them are pretty clever. Naruto snorted as he watched them race off to some random direction. Seriously, if these were the supposedly fearsome Shinigami he'd been told about by Nell and the others, he would be having a rather easy month. Now, where to go? Naruto tapped his chin and found himself feeling hungry. Naruto looked around and noted a small restaurant. He walked over to the sign outside that stated the specials for the day, and he saw something that made his stomach rumble even more. Our ramen? No way. Naruto was practically in tears of joy. Ramen. How long had it been since he had that wonderful, noodly, broth of the gods? It was one of the few things he recalled from his life as a human, and boy what a tasty thing it was. He was thankful that Aizen had explained to him about the currency and gave him enough for a month's time. He walked in while whistling a happy tune. Nell blinked several times, trying to focus. Damn it! She cursed her dizziness as she tried to push herself off the ground. Neutra had seemingly torn off both Pesh and Dandochaka's masks, and as a result had left them seriously injured. Nell let a few tears fall as she felt blood run down her forehead. She couldn't let this happen, no. Not like this. Naruto, I'm sorry. Neutra snickered as Nell passed out. He turned to see Sailaporo appear behind him. It looks like you really did her in this time, Neutra. Neutra sneered at the pink-haired Arrancar, whatever. I don't give a damn about your opinion. We agreed to do Nell in, and that's that. They took the unconscious forms of the three Arrancar to the edge of Las Noches, and tossed them over the edge in brown cloaks. Nell's body landed in the sand unceremoniously, and the eighth Espada was pleased to see her not moving. Then there was a massive release of power. He looked down, only to see that the body of Nell had shrunk. What the hell? She turned into a kid? My, that is interesting. Sale spoke, adjusting his glasses. It seems the threat of her ever attacking us in retaliation is next to nothing now. Neutra laughed before yelling down to the former third espada, that new form suits you well, Neliel. Ha 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 ha. He walked away, feeling better than he had for ages. Pesh and Dandochaka strained to look up, sorrow and shame clearly evident in their demeanor. They had failed, and failed horribly. Neutra had mopped the floor with those two. And it had been unexpected. Then he had the gall to go and attack Nelsama underhandly. The sound of a murmuring voice awoke them from their thoughts. They looked to see their superior awaken. Where am I? Where is Thith? Pesh, what do we do? What other choice do we have? We take Nelsama far from here, far from the pain and suffering she has faced. Dandochaka faced his comrade, cloak covering his damaged face. What about Naruto? Pesh's fist clenched. Hill, move on. You can't be serious. Naruto will go berserk when he finds out about this, don't you know? Those two are dash. I know. Pesh yelled, silencing Dandochaka. We can't stay though. No doubt Neutra will kill us if we return here. We must continue to protect Nelsama. Protect her from harm, from pain and danger. We have to keep her safe from Neutra Jiruga and Sail Aporo. Dandochaka let out a sigh as Nell's eyes drooped a bit as she fell into unconsciousness. Her mask had been cracked. She no longer had the curved horns and part of the teeth of the skull were broken off. It was irreparable. All we can do is protect her from the past, and hope that maybe someday Naruto will find us, and defeat Neutra and Sail if he ever finds out the truth. Pesh went on, we'd be doing him a dishonor if we didn't protect her. I said I would look after her. I failed once. I won't fail again. Nell let out a weary breath as she nuzzled her face into her now oversized garments. Naru, too. She eventually was fast asleep. Dandochaka looked down. She seems to be suffering from amnesia, though she still remembers his name. I'm not that surprised. She really loved him. After a few moments of trying to recover their strength, Dandochaka picked Nell up and cradled her in his arms as Pesh followed behind. They were no longer among the Espada. They were weak, and they had nowhere to go but into the deserts of the eternally dark Hueco Mundo. Pesh only hoped that Naruto would be able to carry on. Nell would have wanted that. Chapter 3, Newcomers. Swing Band Concert, tonight only. HM. Naruto dug out some money from his wallet and grinned, hee, I could use some good entertainment. Naruto walked up to the ticket booth and pushed a few coins to the man behind the glass. One for the show, please. Absolutely, the man took the money and handed Naruto a ticket. Enjoy the show, sir. Naruto grinned while giving a nod. He walked into the concert hall and found a seat in one of the middle rows. About 5 minutes later, the sounds of trombones and trumpets filled the air, and Naruto found himself enjoying the music. It was beginning to get dark out when the concert ended. It had been about 3.5 weeks since Naruto had arrived to Karakura. He found the place to be rather lively, and the people were usually busy with their daily lives. It reminded him of his previous life, though it was fuzzy to him. He couldn't remember details that well. Then again, being a hollow and one at his age, it wasn't much of a surprise that he couldn't remember details of his previous lifetime. Most Arankar didn't remember as far as he knew. He shook his head and continued onward to his small hotel room he was renting on a decent part of town. He turned a corner when he saw it, and stopped. There was a young boy, no more than 9 years of age, standing calmly and watching as people walked past him. Naruto immediately noticed why. The boy had a chain going through a hole in his chest. Another soul. Naruto thought aloud, and leaned against a light post on the corner of the street. He watched the boy for a while, and noted the boy seemed to be quite content with people not noticing his existence. He looked around a bit, and that's when he noted Naruto making eye contact with him. Naruto grinned, and continued onward. The boy's eyes widened significantly, and he started following Naruto. The blonde walked down a rather empty alleyway, and stopped when he noticed the boy had reached him. So, how long have you been dead? The boy was quiet for a moment before answering. About 2 weeks, at least I think it was that long. Naruto was interested. He'd never actually encountered a plus or a human soul before, though Nell had taught him a lot about how humans become hollows, and Aizen, while he never associated too much with any particular member of the Espada or fraction, did give Naruto the occasional lesson in the ways of the human world and the Kanso process. "Why aren't you in the spiritual realm yet?" Naruto asked. "What's keeping you here?" The boy frowned a bit. "Well, my mom lives alone with my little sister. She worked 3 jobs, so I helped take care of my sister. Now that I'm dead though, my mom had to quit 2 of her jobs and ask my grandparents for help. I guess I feel guilty." Naruto gave a sad smile to the boy. "If you don't mind me asking, how did you?" Naruto drifted off, though the boy understood. The boy sighed. "I was on my bike, and the brakes broke. I was heading towards an intersection near a busy street. The driver tried to stop his truck, but I got hit hard. Guess it was just bad luck, hee." Naruto gave the boy credit. He was maintaining a pretty positive outlook on his situation. "You don't blame yourself for your family's troubles, do you?" The boy nodded. "My mom worked a lot, she needed my help. My grandparents live outside of the city, so it's hard for my mom to drop my sister off there after school and get to work." Naruto walked over to the boy and placed a hand on the kid's head. "You shouldn't feel guilty. Instead, you should remember that your family loved you, and that you helped your mother and sister the best that you could." The boy gave him a sad smile. "Thanks, mister." Naruto laughed. "It's not a problem. I'm just surprised I haven't seen more of you souls around here." The boy shrugged. "I'm not lonely. I usually stay around my house, though I like to walk around a bit too." Naruto frowned. "You should be careful. It's not the safest thing for a soul like you to wander around." "Why?" Naruto didn't want to tell him, but he had an idea to help. "Not all souls are good souls. There are, how do I put this? There are souls that aren't so friendly called hollows. They eat souls of both living and dead people." The boy's eyes widened. What? Naruto smiled though. "Don't worry, that's why there are soul reapers around. They help souls like you go to a place called Soul Society where you can be safe and happy." "How do I find soul reapers?" Naruto laughed. "Normally they find you. I'm not exactly sure why they haven't found you after 2 weeks, though I suppose your soul signature is relatively weak. I think I just lucked out in seeing you. I can help you though." "How?" The blonde winked. "I'll give them a Ryatsu flare." "Ha?" Naruto took a few steps back. "I think it'd be best if you get some distance between you and me, okay?" The boy nodded and ran back to the other end of the alley until Naruto said he should be okay. "Now, after I'm done, I'm going to have to leave, okay? I'd appreciate it if you don't tell the Soul Reapers what I look like." The boy was a bit confused, but agreed. "Okay." Naruto, seeing that he'd be safe with doing this, took out a small pendant that Aizen had given him for such a purpose that Naruto needed. He took the pendant and sat against a wall on the alley. He pressed the pendant to his forehead, and in a flash of light, his true form appeared from his jigai. The boy was a bit shocked by Naruto's appearance, but said nothing. He felt a sudden weight on his chest, but remained focused on this mysterious, blonde teenager. "On second thought, you should probably move further back." Naruto spoke, and the boy moved further back, glad to feel the weight lessen slightly. "You're going to feel some heavy weight, but it'll only be for a little while, alright? Like now?" the boy asked, and Naruto nodded. "Okay, I understand." Naruto closed his eyes, and let a slow trickle of Ryatsu from his body. It began to strengthen, and the boy was soon feeling his legs wobble. Naruto began to growl as his Ryatsu began to grow in weight, and the boy found himself sweating from the sheer power of this blonde. "Hang in there, the worst will be over soon." Naruto called out, and let out one final wave of Ryatsu. He saw the boy fall to the ground, gasping as the pressure hit him full force. Naruto stopped and ran to his jigai. He re-entered the false body, and felt his power become suppressed again. "How did you do that?" the boy asked as he struggled to stand. The whisker-marked Arankar just smiled. "I'm a special case." He turned to leave, and looked over his shoulder to the boy. "The Soul Reapers probably sensed that Ryatsu flare. They'll be here shortly. If they ask you, just say that you were running from a big hollow or something, and managed to hide here from it. Tell them it left or something, okay?" The boy, too stunned, just nodded dumbly. Naruto took off sprinting down the street as the boy watched. No more than a minute or two later, 2 figures in black robes landed. The boy fell back, and let out a startled gasp. "Oh, Kensei-chan! Look!" It's a little boy, squealed the green-haired girl of the duo. The hole in his chest is still pretty small too. Kensei, who apparently was the tall and muscular male of the duo, wore a white haori over his black robes. Then where the hell did that Ryatsu come from? He turned to the kid. Hey, boy, you see any weird monsters around here? The boy, who was currently being hugged by the girl, spoke. Why a big monster was following me, and I almost got attacked. I think I lost it though when I hid in this alley though. Kensei nodded. Well, that explains why that Ryatsu felt like a hollows. Mashiro, give the kid the kanso and we'll go look around for the hollow afterwards. Mashiro gave a salute. Okay. She smiled at the boy and took out her sword. You ready to go to Soul Society? I guess so. What about my family? Mashiro frowned childishly. Are they still alive? He nodded. Well, She decided that maybe it'd be best to sweeten the situation a bit. I'm sure someday when they go to Soul Society you'll see them. Besides, in Soul Society, you'll be able to live happily without hunger or pain that's in the living world. That's way better, don't you think? Kensei groaned. Mashiro, just get it over with. Mashiro stuck her tongue out at the older man. Stupid Kensei-chan, he's worried. I'm just trying to make him feel better. She took her sword by the pommel and placed it against the boy's head. Bye. The boy gave her a small smile as a light of blue color enveloped him. He faded away, and a hell butterfly flitted off to guide the boy's soul to Rukongai. Kensei looked over to her as she put her blade back. Finished? Mashiro gave an odd salute. Yes, Kensei-chan. Kensei groaned. Good. Now let's see if we can find that hollow. The two Shinigami used a Shuinpa to dash off towards the direction they had seen the boy looking. Meanwhile, Naruto stood in the shadows of an alleyway about 2 buildings from the alleyway, and sighed. Damn, that was too close. I think that was a captain, judging by the white haori he had on, and that must have been a vice-captain as well. He shook his head. Naruto, you dolt. You'd be lucky to survive if they'd seen you. Heading down the street, he noted that it was getting late. A clock on a large building showed the hour hand to be pointing at 12, and he decided that maybe he would be smart in retiring for the night. He didn't want to have his soul shredded by a Zanpakuto tonight, now that he really thought about it. Another week had come and gone for Naruto since that event with the plus. He'd been waiting for a while now, wondering if perhaps Hueco Mundo had forgotten him in Karakura. No, Aizen can't afford to. He loses me, and even I know he'd be losing a valuable fighter. Naruto wasn't bragging, simply stating. Naruto knew how to fight, and he knew how to survive. Hopping off from his bed, he stretched his legs a bit before looking out the window and into the night sky. He'd been hoping that he'd be back home by now. No doubt Nell was getting aggravated with him gone. Naruto suddenly felt a presence he wasn't expecting. He raised an eyebrow and looked out the window. What is he doing here? Naruto was soon out of his body, and flew up while carrying the empty shell. He looked around and noted that Aranyero Ararori standing at the entryway of a Garganta. Naruto knew the Espada only a little bit, merely from the chance meeting of seeing him in a hallway once while walking with Nell. Naruto Uzumaki, you're to return to Las Noches and report to Aizen. He also has some news to share with you in regards to your former superior. Okay, thanks Ararori Naruto froze in place, suddenly realizing what he heard. Wait, former? That's correct. Neliel 2 Oderschwank has abandoned the Espada about 3 weeks ago. Her whereabouts are unknown, so she has been deemed as a traitor or missing. The 9th Espada replied in an expressionless tone. We've wasted enough time here, let us go before Soul Society detects us. Naruto nodded dumbly, though he felt as though someone had played a cruel and sadistic joke on him, and he was the only one who was left out of the loop on what exactly that joke was. He didn't even take notice when they arrived to the desert wasteland of Hueco Mundo. When they entered the palace of Las Noches, Aizen was waiting for him in his throne room. Naruto, I'm glad to see you're back. The blonde didn't waste a second. What happened to Nel-sama? Aizen looked to Aranyero, who merely shrugged. I believe Aranyero told you, didn't he? Pesh and Dondochaka, your fellow fraction, are also missing as well. Nel-sama wouldn't abandon her position randomly, Aizen-sama. It's unlike her. I've served under her ever since I became an Arrancar. Surely there's dash. Naruto, I'm sorry about this, I too have no clue what has happened. However, we are currently short 1 member in our group. We must make changes. I'm sorry. Aizen spoke, his voice calm as ever, though there was no smile. Naruto was furious, but he didn't let it show. He wouldn't dare speak out to Aizen. Naruto may be stubborn, but he wasn't an idiot. I understand, Aizen-sama. Naruto, Stark has also informed me that he would be willing to take you as his subordinate for the time being, if you wish. The man on the throne gave the blonde a smile. I can understand your frustration, please do know that. Naruto sighed. I'm willing to serve under Stark-sama until he either decides to release me from duty or otherwise. Aizen nodded. Eren, will you let Stark know of this? Eren nodded. I already have. Aizen gave a knowing nod. Of course, I almost forgot of your ability. With that, Naruto was dismissed. The blonde wasn't really in the mood to see anyone at the time, so he instead went to the now empty chambers where he and Nell had lived. He gritted his teeth as he could smell her scent on the sheets of the bed. Nell-chan, where did you go? Grimmjow was well aware of what his blonde-haired peer was going through when he saw Naruto standing on a roof of the numerous buildings of Las Noches. Naruto, where have you been? That Stark guy has been saying that you were supposed to meet him 2 hours ago. Naruto just snorted. He could have gone looking for me if he really cared. It's not like I'm hard to find. Grimmjow's eyes narrowed, and he was soon right behind the blonde. Cut this crap out, now. Naruto didn't even flinch as he was held up by the collar of his vest. You going to make me? Grimmjow didn't miss a beat, and headbutt the blonde. Naruto fell to the ground, and without even thinking, tried to sweep Grimmjow off his feet. What, did I ruin the little pity party? Bastard! Naruto leaped into the air up and delivered a blinding punch to Grimmjow. The blue-haired Arrancar took the punch and crashed into a pillar. He got up and cracked his neck. That's the way. Come on, Naruto. Naruto roared in anger as he phased from view. Grimmjow did likewise, and there were a few explosive crashes made as the two Arrancar exchanged blows. They reappeared in the white dunes as Naruto felt his anger beginning to boil over. What the hell is your problem, huh? I never recall you giving a damn about my problems before now, Grimmjow. Grimmjow had a dead serious expression on his face. Pathetic. What was that? Naruto growled, his irises turning a slight crimson. I said. Grimmjow lifted a palm as a red light began to form. You're being pathetic. Naruto cursed his ill luck as the Zero blasted towards him. The blonde reacted quickly and dashed to the side while jumping into the air. The energy blast exploded where he had been standing, causing a miniature shock wave to rock the area. The presence of someone at the blonde's side caused him to turn, only to be decked in the face. Naruto cried out in pain and halted his flight downward from Grimmjow's fist. He raised two hands and began to fire bala after bala at his rival. The older Arrancar merely chuckled with a sneer as he dodged the haphazardly aimed attacks. Naruto was attacking on pure fury now. Not much of a surprise, Grimmjow supposed. Come on, Naruto. Hit me. Naruto was suddenly gone from Grimmjow's vision. He felt two solid blows to his back and crashed into a pillar as Naruto landed on the ground where Grimmjow fell. The blue-haired man got up, a gleam in his eye. Was that better? Naruto ground out. Grimmjow snickered, it tickled. The desert around them was soon a war zone as the two began to smash into each other, blow after blow being blocked or dealt. A knee to the gut. Shouldn't you be trying to become one of the Espada? No. I'd rather beat the crap out of you right now, seeing as all you plan on doing is sobbing about your little hussy leaving you. A foot to the jaw. Take that back. 5 successful kicks to the chest. Why don't you make me? A chokehold slam into a building. Naruto coughed as Grimmjow held him down. Damn it. He put a death grip on Grimmjow's wrist, still holding his throat. Grimmjow. Grimmjow was blown back as a giant blast of red erupted from Naruto's mouth. He screeched to a halt in midair, and watched as Naruto literally destroyed the building, which luckily was nothing more than a small outpost within the Desert World Palace. Had Grimmjow not blasted his own Zero at the blondes, he may have been missing his head right now. Well, that may have been pushing it, but he wouldn't be feeling good right now. After all, the blonde had blasted the attack from point blank. Naruto eventually calmed down, though he was still venting out Ryatsu like no tomorrow. Grimmjow landed and spoke as Naruto slowly looked up at him. You done whining? Naruto saw that Grimmjow was not smiling in his usual sadistic manner, instead giving the rare serious expression, which meant he was rather annoyed. The blonde nodded and stood straight. Thanks. I needed that. TCH, you're an idiot. Grimjaw began to walk away. If I catch you wallowing like that again, I'll make sure to beat you to a pulp next time. Naruto was well aware that Grimjaw had been holding back. Naruto himself had been holding back as well, though that was purely out of practice. Naruto always held back when he fought in Las Noches. It was like a rule for the Espada and Fraction. Naruto stood up and stretched. Grimjaw, hold on a second. What? Grimjaw ground out, an annoyed look on his face. Try not to suck so much the next time you fight me. Grimjaw raised an eyebrow before snickering. TCH, take your own advice for once. Once I'm an Espada, you'll have to be kissing my feet. No thanks, I'm not sure where those have been. Grimjaw laughed a bit before zipping away with a flicker. Naruto felt a lot better now, though the hurt was still there. For now, he'd try and push his feelings about Nell, Dondochaka, and Pesh's disappearance down for now. Besides, Stark was not one to keep waiting. You'll be the first Fraction I've ever had. Don't worry too much about duties to me. Just be sure to do what needs to be done when the time calls for it. Naruto was a bit surprised when Stark had basically given Naruto permission to slack off. He had asked Stark why, only for Stark to say that training day and night like Nell had been wasn't his thing. He trusted Naruto was talented enough, otherwise he wouldn't have picked him up as a Fraction in the first place. Stark-sama? First off, Stark is good enough, the Primera responded. Anyway, what's your question? Since Nell-sama's no longer here, what will happen with the position of the Tercera? The blonde asked, taking a seat across from Stark at a small table. Someone will take over the spot. I imagine it'll be an Arrancar who is rather powerful, if not experienced. It'd only make sense, though I have no clue how long it'll take for the position to be filled. The higher-ranked Hollows are more responsible for what happens with the Espada than the lower-ranked ones, according to Aizen. It's to help maintain the Espada, or so he says. Stark replied with a shrug, more or less, I'm sort of the one who has main priority over ensuring things maintain order in Las Noches, aside from Aizen himself. Naruto gave a nod, understanding the older Arrancar's explanation, right. One more question. Stark sensed Naruto's hesitancy. Go ahead and shoot, Naruto. I'm all ears. Naruto was ever thankful that the Espada had a casual air about him when he was talking. It made getting to know the Primera easier. Well, it has to do with my resurrection. Stark was interested. Go on. I showed it to Nell-sama only once. She said it was on par with that of one of the lower-ranked Espada. Naruto paused, scratching the back of his head. Would you care to tell me what you think of it? Nell-sama was always kind to me, and I sometimes think she was just trying to help my morale by saying that. I see. Stark stood up and started towards the exit to the dunes outside. Show me your resurrection then. I trust Nell's opinion though, Naruto. If she said it was that strong, she probably was telling the truth. The two were soon outside, Stark standing a good distance away from Naruto as the younger Arrancar prepared himself. He pulled his sword out from his sheath on his back and spun it around in his hand once before thrusting it forward so that it was pointing at Stark. He held onto the handle with both hands while his Ryatsu began to spike. Now, one should note that Naruto didn't like advertising his power that much. In all honesty, only 3 people had ever seen Naruto perform his released form. Nell was one of them, and Aizen obviously being the other. The only other person who had the rare honor of seeing Naruto's resurrection was Grimjaw, namely because Naruto had seen Grimjaw perform his release as well. It was for these few reasons that Stark was intrigued when he felt Naruto's power seemed to continue growing. The blonde's irises flashed red while his features became more feral, nails elongated, his canines sharpened, his unique whisker marks darkened. Just as quickly as Naruto released his power, the air around them seemed to reach boiling temperatures. Stark watched as the sand blew into the wind while Naruto lifted his sword slightly so that it pointed forward to the blue sky. Naruto took in a deep breath and closed his eyes. He held the breath for an eternity and a half it seemed before exhaling as he spoke. Ravage, Rey de Zoros. All at once, the air became heavy as a crimson light erupted from Naruto, encompassing the boy from all angles. His sword shined a similar hue before disappearing into the blood-red aura. Naruto crouched down a bit as the light seemed to expand while shooting into the air, flooding the sky in its color. One could have believed it was sunset almost. Stark's eyes actually widened slightly, namely out of amusement. This boy, he's truly a unique case. Aizen smiled to himself as he sat in his chambers, the only company being the calm wind that blew outside. Part of Aizen was a bit apprehensive about the power that the blonde Arrancar was emitting. After all, the boy wasn't even an Espada and he was well within the boundaries of being considered one. Why the boy hadn't asked for a position of power yet amused Aizen more than anything. He knew that the boy was aware that he was powerful. He just didn't care for titles. Aizen stood up from his throne and walked down the corridors, going over the finer details of his plan that would be going into effect in 2 or so years. He had the guidelines made out for what he needed to do all mapped out in his mind, and the only thing he needed to accomplish now was to find the right time to start. He'd have to wait for a moment when the Gotii would be occupied with something else so that he would go unnoticed, even by his captain, Shinji Hirako. It wouldn't be that hard, as long as he remained the amicable vice-captain of the 5th Division he would be fine. Aizen hummed a tune to himself as he made his way towards the exit that lead to the dunes of Las Noches. Yes, it would all work out according to plan. 15 years. 15 years since Naruto had been transferred to his position serving under Stark. 15 years had gone relatively quickly for him, now that he thought about it. He still thought about Nell every now and then, but he had lost hope of ever seeing her again. He had surrendered to the fact that he must have done something wrong, or must have missed something. She had seemed happy with him. Did he anger her by taking the mission? Was she kidnapped? No. Nell would never be kidnapped, not without a fight. She wasn't weak. Hell, Naruto was still pretty sure that she'd be able to dance circles around him, even if in his Resurrection form. He'd seen her powers, and he knew that he was probably about a century behind her in experience and power right now. She had always stressed that point: experience is the one thing that separates the superiors from the subordinates. Naruto, you there? Naruto blinked stupidly as Stark waved a hand in front of his face. Sorry, Stark-sama. Stark just smiled a bit. You were spacing out again. I was asking you if you wished to escort me to Aizen's throne room. I guess. What's going on? We're going to meet the newly promoted Espada. Aizen's made a few new additions, and also promoted one of the older ones here. Great, more of the arrogant windbags like Baragon, right? Stark chuckled. Naruto, Baragon isn't a windbag, just proud. He called me a brat and child, Stark. I'm more than a century in age, damn it. Well, I think I'm at least a century and a half in age. Those years in Hueco Mundo flew by fast, so I don't know for sure. Stark raised an eyebrow. You think you'd be a better Espada than Baragon? Naruto snorted comically. There's no way in hell I'd be an Espada. Especially one that's 4 or higher. I don't like the idea of babysitting the others. Stark gave a nod. You said it. Too bad I can't afford to ask for a demotion. The Primera and his fraction walked into the chambers while Naruto continued to rant about how things weren't like they were back in the day. Ah, Stark, Naruto-kun, how are you? Naruto quieted down immediately as he looked to the figure of Aizen standing in front of his throne. Stark gave Naruto a look to let him know to keep quiet before speaking. Aizen-sama. He gave a bow, as did Naruto. Naruto looked throughout the chambers and noted 2 newcomers he hadn't seen before. One was a woman with tan skin and blonde hair. She wore a very suggestive outfit as far as Espada and other Arrancar went. He was pretty sure that she was cutting it close with a couple of dress codes with her top revealing the lower part of her bust, but he didn't say anything. He would have said she was beautiful, but the lower portion of her face was covered by the high collar of her shirt. He was looking at her legs when he felt like he was being watched. He looked up to see her looking at him. He blushed a bit before looking onward to the next Espada. The other was a short man with dark hair and a horn protruding from his head. He had a face that Naruto would have mistaken for a stone mask. His expression didn't change at all, and Naruto had to admit that he was relatively short compared to the other Espada. Well, shorter than Grimmjow and Stark at least. Maybe around Naruto's height. Now that we're all here, I'd like to introduce you all to our 3 newest additions to the Espada, as well as 2 promotions. Aizen began, his smile never faltering for a moment. Aizen looked to the 2 new faces and smiled. First, I'd like to introduce Harabel, the new Tercera. Naruto tensed for a moment before he felt a hand clasp his shoulder. Easy, Naruto. Naruto looked to see Stark looking down at the blonde with a calm expression. Naruto gave a nod before looking back to Aizen and the others, choosing to remain quiet. Our other new member of the family is Ulquiorra Schiffer, who will be taking the rank of our fourth Espada. There was a murmur among the other Espada, mostly out of surprise in the new Tercera. Ever since Nell disappeared, no one had taken up the rank of the Tercera, namely out of simple fact no one was really eager or willing to take the rank. Some of the more experienced Espada also knew firsthand how protective Naruto had been over anyone who had challenged Nilil to Oderschwank's position. He never verbally stated this, but he would make sure whoever so chose to take the spot would be going through hell and high water to prove they were worth it. To continue our little meeting, I've decided to move Neutra Jiruga up to the 5th Espada. He has proven himself strong enough to carry the position, and I'm confident that he'll do well. Like I said, Naruto whispered, nothing but arrogant windbags. Stark let out a small chuckle while Aizen went on, the third new addition to our group is none other than Grimjaw Jigerjax, who has been a part of the Arrancar in Las Noches for quite some time. He will be the new Sexta. Naruto turned to Grimjaw and gave the newly promoted Espada a grin. Grimjaw just smirked a bit while the Arrancar were dismissed. Naruto gave Stark a look, and Stark, reading the boy's mind, just nodded. Naruto headed over to Grimjaw and laughed, "Ha, you're finally an Espada." Grimjaw just rolled his eyes. TCH, Aizen would have promoted me ages ago if he wasn't gone all the time. Naruto snorted indignantly, I'm sure. The idea of a pair of well-manicured nails attacking me always speaks power in my mind. Grimjaw gave Naruto a flat look, go burrow a den and raise some kits, baka. The two laughed a bit while leaving the chambers, so, what are you going to do now? Grimjaw grinned, what else? Get stronger. Naruto gave a grunt of understanding, right. I heard Stark mentioning something about me and him training a bit more. Something about Aizen needing us to be ready for anything in the years to come. Naruto shrugged, it's a miracle alone that Stark gets out of bed every day. Naruto looked to the retreating form of the Tercera, and heard Grimjaw give a laugh, oh no, don't tell me you're pissed off at someone taking the coveted Tercera Espada title. The blonde Fraction said nothing for a moment, turning to face Grimjaw, you know anything about her? Grimjaw shrugged, don't know, don't care. She's Harabelle, she wears something that makes me question if she's immune to the catching colds, and she is able to live up to the title, according to Aizen at least. Naruto looked to see the chambers were empty except for the two now. I'll catch you later, Grimjaw. Whatever. See you later. Grimjaw gave a wave while turning towards the direction of his new chambers. Naruto turned to the still noticeable blonde hair of the new Tercera. Naruto made a quick dash towards her, by her side within seconds. Harabelle stopped to look at the younger-looking blonde Arrancar, golden eyes observing him closely. You're Naruto Uzumaki, Fraction of Stark-san, the Primera, correct? Naruto was a bit surprised, that's me. Harabelle studied him for a moment longer before continuing towards her chambers. Aizen-sama has told me a bit about you. He says you served under the previous Tercera, Nilil to Oderschwank. He also stated that you held a high amount of respect for her. That's right. You don't think I'm worthy of being the Tercera, do you? Naruto, who was walking alongside her now, spoke, not so much that as I feel that Aizen gave up on trying to locate Nilil-sama so quickly. Harabelle paused for a moment, and turned to Naruto, you seem to hold higher respect towards her than you do towards Aizen. There was a flicker in her eyes, am I right? Naruto just grinned, Nilil-sama taught me how to live as an Arrancar, and how to fight with the sword, and even though I was her subordinate, she treated me more like a student and peer. I owe her my respect, Harabelle-sama. Harabelle nodded, I suppose I can understand that. You also seem to know when someone is more powerful than you, if I can make any assumptions about you. You're also much older than you appear. Naruto raised an eyebrow, heh, you got me. Though, if you don't mind me saying this, you're probably older than me. In total existence, definitely. In terms of being an Arrancar, you're older than me, I'm certain. The shorter blonde smirked, giving her an appreciative once-over, I must say, you are a welcome change here. There aren't many high-ranking female Arrancar in Las Noches. Aside from Sorochi Thunderwitch, there aren't many Arrancar that really approach me. Sorochi though, Naruto chuckled a bit, she can be a real flirt when you get underneath that cold exterior of hers. It was Harabelle's turn to be surprised, you associate with the Privaron? Naruto looked insulted, of course I do. They were Espada too, you know. In fact, you could probably learn a thing or two from them yourself. Hell, they've been in Las Noches longer than you or me, and they don't have the same level of power as we do. We may have been given some assistance in our transformation into Arrancar with Aizen's help, but they were the original Espada. Only Arañero is the remaining original still among our ranks. Harabel gave Naruto what he assumed to be an amused look. You're an interesting one, Naruto Uzumaki. You act much more childish than you really should, yet you have wisdom for someone who has seen many years. The whiskered Frachin just chuckled. I just speak my mind, that's all. The female Espada crossed her arms a bit, it would seem that way. She turned to her chamber door, apparently having arrived sooner than they expected. Naruto noticed her look to him a bit longer, and he swore she stared at his abs for a whole 3 seconds before continuing. On a side note, Uzumaki, if I catch you staring at my legs like that again, I promise you I won't let it go unpunished. Is that clear? The blonde Frachin felt a very brief yet powerful weight of Ryatsu on him, and gulped, Crystal, Harabel-sama. Harabel looked at Naruto for a moment longer before opening her door. Still, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Uzumaki. I hope we can do this again sometime. As the door to the new Tercera's chambers closed, Naruto scratched his head. What the hell was that? The blonde grumbled something about women being just as difficult in Hueco Mundo as they were in his past life, and walked further down the halls. Why am I being transferred again? Stark sighed. Listen, Naruto, it wasn't exactly like I had a choice in the matter. Harabel has no Frachin as of right now, and seeing as she is of lower rank than me, Aizen believed it would be best for the newer Espada to have subordinates. I'm the Primera, and I've been here for a while. I know how things go around here. Maybe Aizen just has a personal vendetta with me? Naruto suggested, his tone smothered in sarcasm. Seriously, I think Harabel requested me as her Frachin so that she could kill me. That woman is colder than Ulquiorra in a snowstorm sometimes. It had been no more than 3 years since the new Espada were promoted, and already Naruto was being transferred again. He was getting sick of it, but he really had no say in the matter. Look, Naruto, if it helps make you feel any better, I won't be getting any new Frachin for a long time, if ever, the Primera stated, giving Naruto's unruly hair a ruffling with his hand. I realize you are still not really familiar with Harabel, but try to think back to Nel-san. She too was a bit distant when you first met her, am I right? Naruto opened his mouth, only to immediately close it and look away. I still don't agree with this change. Well, you can always go take it up with Aizen himself. The blonde laughed. Yeah, and maybe I can ask him to allow me to storm Suriitai with a few hundred jillion too. The Primera laughed. Look, Naruto, considering the amount of charm you seem to let off all the time, I'm sure Harabel will warm up to you in due time. I mean, Surachi was never known for her kindness, and she adores you. Are you trying to say something about me and Surachi? Oh no, not at all. Stark grinned while Naruto just rubbed his temples. Fine, well, I guess this is it. I'll probably see you around, Stark. Try not to sleep in so much with me not being able to wake you up. Naruto gave a mock salute to the Primera before using his sonido to head back to the chambers of the Tercera. He was there within only 2 minutes' time, and straightened himself up before knocking. The doors opened to reveal Harabel, an amused look on her slight covered face. You're earlier than I expected, Uzumaki. Stark-sama informed me that you requested me to be made your first Frachin. Aizen made it official just a few hours ago from what I understand. Naruto gave a quick bow. I'm at your command, Harabel-sama. Harabel gave the faintest hint of a smile as her eyes became a bit squinted. There's no need to be so formal with me, Uzumaki. I know you seem to think I'm out for your blood, but I believe that perhaps it would be best if we have a fresh start. Are you willing to try that? Now, Naruto was hard to surprise after living for more than a century. He rarely flinched when Neutra made a death threat, or when Grimjaw would stop a fist from colliding into his face by only a mere centimeter. Still, Naruto found this sudden appearance of friendly behavior in Harabel to be among the few things that befuddled him. Sure? Naruto said with a shrug. Harabel gave a nod before opening the door all the way. So? I see you kept the chambers pretty much the same. Nilio-sama put a lot of pride into the order she kept here. Harabel was quiet for a moment, admiring the order of the place. Yes. It's a little-known fact that I saw Nilio II Oderschwank as an idol of sorts when I was younger. Naruto stopped dead in his tracks. Really? You're serious? Naruto shook his head. I've never seen you around here before, though. Harabel gave another nod. Yes, she was one of the few women in the Espada, and she fought with a calm and grace that I can only hope to gain someday. Before I had been an Espada, I had seen her fight once. She inspired me to become a greater warrior. The blonde Frachin gave Harabel a smile. I suppose I can give this another try, Harabel-sama. After all, I was Nel-sama's pupil for close to half a century. I can teach you if you would be willing to teach me as well. That can be arranged, Harabel spoke while folding her arms over her chest. Aizen-sama said you are a fairly experienced fighter, so I trust that going over basics with you will be unnecessary, correct? Yeah. By the way, just call me Naruto. Uzumaki makes me feel like I'm older than I should be. Harabel gave a quiet laugh. Very well. Welcome back to the Tercera's forces, Naruto. It had come to pass with time that Naruto and Harabel developed a sort of master and apprentice-like relationship with each other. Naruto thought about getting closer to her more than once, but it was perhaps the memory of the woman who had once held her ranking that kept him back. Deep down, Naruto still thought of Nell. She had gotten close to Naruto in a way he had never thought possible. He was fairly certain that he'd never share a love with another woman like he did with her ever again. He had the occasional moment or two with a few of the other Arrancar women, but he always made sure to keep his distance. He didn't want his heart that he supposedly never had as a hollow to be ripped out from him again. It also didn't help that Harabel's overall demeanor reminded him a bit of Nell. Harabel was an amazing sword fighter, her style using her strength and speed to its highest potential. Her spiritual energy easily surpassed Naruto by a wide margin. It scared him a little, a young Espada at her level of power. Though, he wasn't quite sure how old she was. She may very well be around his age. He had no clue. All in all though, he enjoyed her company. She wasn't necessarily an optimist, but she certainly wasn't a pessimist either. She was simply a woman who had a logical and knowledgeable sense of her world, and was willing to have deep conversations with Naruto, just like Nell. Harabel, do you think that Arrancar are truly condemned beings? Condemned? Harabel repeated, I cannot say. Hollows take the souls of the living and dead to feast on. I don't know exactly what excuse we could use other than our dark powers influencing us that would save us from punishment. Suppose we use our powers to protect those we care about. Would that make us evil? Harabel sighed. You ask questions that I don't think we can give answers to. She looked to her Frachin, and shook her head. I will say this much though, Naruto. You're an exception to the norm as far as hollows and Arrancar go. You don't fight unless you are training, or for the sake of protecting those dear to you. You value life, and whenever you and I have gone to the human world in Arjigai, you always try to help the stranded souls. I don't know if that is exactly becoming of an Arrancar, but I see it as a rather noble thing to do. Naruto laughed. What? No comments on my looks and my charming personality? I wouldn't go that far. You still are a bit of a child, the blonde Espada spoke, her eyes glimmering in silent laughter. Naruto went from grinning to frowning in seconds, and Harabel just continued to remain quiet, enjoying the mild annoyance she caused the boy. It was a little-known fact that Harabel, while not talkative when involved in duty, was quite the pacifist, enjoying peace and tranquility whenever possible. She took her duty as the Tercera very seriously, and was very loyal to Aizen, though some stated she was a very good actor. Naruto never spoke of how she acted outside of public affairs, and this annoyed a few of the more curious Arrancar. Even more so, Naruto was one of only a handful that saw what was behind collar of Harabel's jacket. Harabel, who had been meditating in her private quarters, was a bit shocked when Naruto came walking in on her one day, immediately blushing a ripe tomato red before apologizing and bolting out the door. Harabel was the kind of person who tried to be as comfortable as possible whenever she meditated. This meant she would have her shirt unzipped, leaving her open and exposed to the world. The funny thing was, Harabel was a unique case, with her lower jaw and much of what her small zipper jacket covered was her mask. Naruto later apologized for his intrusion, and Harabel had accepted it without any anger. Naruto had asked her why she kept herself hidden like that, though she never gave a reason. Well, I think you're still a beautiful woman, Naruto stated after she had remained quiet for a good couple of minutes. Now Harabel had trained herself to never let her emotions be too visible, so she settled for a small nod. Thank you, Naruto. Naruto waved it off. Bah, don't thank me. Just keep looking gorgeous and I'll call it even, Naruto felt the hairs on his neck tingle. I was kidding, Harabel-sama. Honestly, I swear. Harabel lowered her killer intent a little, mentally patting herself on the back for being able to keep the infamously free-spirited Fraction in line. Of course you were. Harabel stretched a bit while Naruto looked at her while she zipped up her jacket. Where are you going now? The Tercera Espada looked to her Fraction, then to one of the exits of Las Noches. We're going to train. Why not just train here? The woman was quiet for a moment, her eyes moving over Naruto's features a bit before she replied, Naruto, tell me, how long was it since you last spent any real time out in Hueco Mundo? Naruto tapped his chin. I'd say close to, 50 years? Harabel gave a hum, as though she had expected as much of a response. There are 2 rules that are placed upon Espada inside Las Noches. Do you know what they are? Yeah, the first is using the Gran Rey Zero inside the walls of Las Noches, the other which forbids any Espada above number 4 from releasing their Zanpakuto. What of it? Harabel didn't blink as she replied, Stark-sama told me that you are more than capable of using the Gran Rey Zero. Naruto's eyebrows rose up as he looked to her with genuine surprise. You're not supposed to know about that. Not even Aizen knows. Harabel started heading towards the exit. I want to gauge your abilities. Naruto had known Harabel for maybe a year or 2, possibly 3. It was a bit of a surprise that she had come to know more about him than he had shared with her. He remembered using Grand Race Zero after Stark had taught it to him. The rule against using the volatile technique was made only a decade ago. Stark had taught it to Naruto after 4 years together. Much like everything else about Naruto, he was more than capable of using the attack. Any other secrets I should share with you that you already know? Naruto said with a smirk. Harabel, much to his shock, nodded. Your Resurrección has been said to be on par with the lower-ranking Espada. Is that true as well? Naruto laughed. That's a matter of opinion, I guess. Last time I remember, I'm probably a bit lower than Grinjo in power, though I haven't really had a good fight with him in almost 12 years. Hell, he may be stronger than Neutra. The blonde Espada's eyes shined with amusement. That's quite a bold statement to make, Naruto. Nelsama said something similar to that when I claimed I could beat Neutra when he was merely the Octava. Now that Sale guy is there though. Not sure where he stands in power, the blonde commented, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Naruto had always been leery of the pink-haired Espada. The man had lost his position ages ago when Naruto was still serving as Nell's Fraction. Only recently had he regained his rank, no more than a year or 2 after Neutra had become the Quinta Espada. Needless to say, Naruto had been feeling there was more to that story than he knew. Well, I'd like to see how great your power is. Stark seemed genuinely proud when he talked about you to me, so I have high expectations in you. Moments later, the 2 were outside the walls of Las Noches, the dark and eternal night of Hueco Mundo providing a sharp contrast to the bright skies of Giant Palace. The moon gave an eerie glow as the 2 Arrancar headed towards a distant area with a flat surface. Harabel turned to Naruto, drawing her blade. Naruto was immediately on guard. Harabel-sama, you never told me you were going to draw your sword. Harabel didn't miss a beat. I never said I wasn't going to either. The blonde Fraction snorted, should have expected that. Naruto pulled out his own sword, which was much longer than that of Harabel's, which was wide and shorter than most blades. The Tercera's blade was actually a hollow one, appearing as more of a frame of a sword than an actual blade. It looked fragile upon a quick glance, but Naruto knew better. Harabel was a powerful opponent, without her blade. Naruto's blade, on the other hand, was a rather large katana, possibly bordering on the length of an odachi. Nell commented once that the blade was possibly a bit more cumbersome than effective for the male Fraction, yet Naruto had learned to compensate its larger-than-average length with finesse and strength. Then again, Neutra's blade length put Naruto's to shame. He had no qualms with having a larger-than-average close combat sword. Blue eyes barely caught Harabel flicker away from view, and Naruto spun around just in time to block a vertical slash aimed for his arm. He grunted as he applied Ryatsu to the surrounding area in an attempt to make Harabel have greater difficulty in maintaining her push. Harabel seemed to not be fazed in the least. Yes, that's it, Naruto. Don't hold back for a second. Harabel was now in her zone. Naruto knew that if he slipped up in the slightest, he'd be paying big time for it later. He had seen her spar with Stark before, and he had light sessions with her more than once. The whiskered Fraction growled as his Ryatsu began to cause the sands around them to tremble. He hopped back for a moment before ducking under a horizontal slash from the Tercera's blade, and cursed himself as her foot came crashing into his chest. He went rocketing into the sky before he managed to stop his trajectory. He looked around to see where his superior had disappeared to, and moved to his right as she phased before him and made another slash to where he had been moments ago. Naruto gripped his blade tightly before flying at her, and slamming the blade into hers, then pulling back and quickly trying to cut her shoulders, only for her to block. He moved back while spinning to attack again, only for Harabel to fly back, effectively avoiding the attack. Naruto pursued her, and tried to kick her in the temple. She ducked under the rather high-rising kick, and craned her neck back as her subordinate used his momentum to spin around and try to cut her as a follow-up. She caught his wrist, and blinked. "I'm a bit disappointed, Naruto. You're fighting recklessly." Naruto's eyes widened a bit before he chuckled. "I'm a lot better at taking punishment, so I don't mind being a bit reckless." The female Arrancar gave no verbal response, instead gripping his wrist tightly while charging up a bala with the index finger of her sword hand. She fired the attack, sending Naruto careening through the air for the second time. He landed on his feet, a bit scorched, but relatively unharmed. "That recklessness of yours will be your undoing in a fight to the death, Naruto. I will not have one of my subordinates, let alone friends, get killed because they feel they can take punishment better than others." Naruto narrowed his eyes as Harabel's Ryatsu increased. Naruto grunted as he shouldered off the heavy spiritual pressure she exuded. Hefting his blade into a ready stance, and flickered away from view for a brief moment. Harabel didn't even move her feet as she moved her blade to block her side, her eyes moving casually to Naruto. "Better. You're focusing too much though on me." The Tercera pushed Naruto back, only for him to backflip while aiming to deliver a kick in process. She backed away, narrowly avoiding his foot, and continued her assault on him. The whiskered Arrancar blocked her blade with his own, and sparks flew as they battled for dominance. The larger of the two blades eventually got the upper hand as Naruto used his leverage to once again push her away, following up with a quick thrust of his Zanpakuto. Harabel, a bit surprised and proud to see Naruto's skills starting to show, sidestepped as the blade grazed her shoulder. The two shared eye contact briefly as Harabel nodded. "Considering the amount you're holding back, I must admit I'm quite impressed." The shorter blonde smiled. "Thank you, Harabel-sama." Harabel dropped her blade to her side, and Naruto did likewise. "I believe that is enough for now. We shall continue from where we left off later today, though I will be much more serious when we start again." She held out a hand, and Naruto took it with a smile as she helped him up. "In the meantime, let us take a short rest. I wish to test you on your knowledge of Shinigami and Soul Society." The blonde-haired male gave a groan, only to receive a blank look from Harabel, which was the equivalent of "Are you complaining?" from what he had experienced. He bowed his head a bit and nodded. "Very well, Harabel-sama. We can go for a walk around Las Noches before training again if you wish." Harabel added quietly, which Naruto could only smile at. Siri Iti. Home to the guardians of the mortal souls, the Shinigami, or Soul Reapers. The 13 courtguard squads, or the Gotei 13 as they were more commonly called, were the various squads assigned to different tasks throughout Soul Society, such as the Research and Development Division in the 12th Division, and the 4th Division, which was responsible for medical treatment and supplies, as well as many other divisions. For about 2 millennium, Shigokuni Yamamoto Genryosai commanded this group of Soul Reapers. They stood as a polar opposite to Hueco Mundo and the Hollows, purifying souls, giving rest to wandering spirits, and training the next generation of Shinigami. However, there was recently a new addition to the Gotei 13's many subdivisions, the Combat and Field Medic Corps, created and founded by the combined efforts of the 4th Division's second-in-command, Isane Kotetsu, and the 4th Seat Officer and lead commander of the new subdivision, Sakura Haruno. Sakura Haruno was a fairly experienced Shinigami, having graduated with one of the more talented groups in the past few decades. She was also one of the few members who had stuck with the division she had started in, the others having been moved or promoted to higher ranks of authority while she remained in a lower rank. If one asked her friends in Soul Society why she remained a 4th seat, you would get varied answers, depending on the person you asked. 6th Division Vice Captain Rinji Abarai would shudder and say the superiors knew that if they gave her the position of Vice Captain that the 4th Division would have a severe unbalance in its power. Momo Hinamori, Vice Captain of the 5th Division, would smile brightly and say Sakura-chan loved her work, and was happy remaining where she was, as long as she helped those who needed her. Rukia Kuchiki, an unseated officer within the 13th Division, would kindly state that Haruno-san is a person who takes pride in her work and yearns to learn more from her superiors instead of simply moving up the ranks. Izuru Kira would rub his chin in thought for a moment and state that while he was currently the vice-captain of the 3rd Division, he too was once in the 4th Division. Sakura's reason for her current position were her own, but he would guess it was because she got to have more freedom with her current place in the 4th Division. If you asked her personally, Sakura would shrug her shoulders and smile before saying it was just the way she liked it. As of right now, Sakura Haruno was standing in the office of her highest direct authority, Retsu Unohana. The woman had come to be seen as a mentor and role model for Sakura when she was first introduced to the academy. In her later years at the academy, the pink-haired Shinigami had taken electives that Unohana taught once a week. Sakura excelled in her basic fields of Kido, swordsmanship, and unarmed combat. Still, her interest in healing and medicine had only grown since she had died and went to Soul Society. The pink-haired girl was shaken from her thoughts as she faced her captain's eyes. My sincerest apologies, Unohana Taishu, I didn't catch all of that. Unohana, who was one of the senior members of the Gotei 13, having been around longer than most of the other captains, Yamamoto not included, smiled gently. I was wondering how the new subdivision you and Isane are running is going. Oh, yes. Sakura straightened up a bit before continuing. We've managed to recruit 15 hopefuls from the unseated positions, and they all show great promise in healing, though they're a bit lacking in combat experience. That's to be expected, Sakura, this is a division for healing, after all. Sakura blushed a bit, feeling embarrassed. Why yes, I was just thinking that we'd lose less of our younger Shinigami within the 4th if we could just help train them better in field work that includes advanced fighting and defense against hollows. Unohana got up from her seat and walked over to the girl she had come to see as a daughter. Much like Isane, Sakura, I never said I have objection to what you and Isane are doing. This is a great thing you are doing. She placed both her hands on Sakura's shoulders. Just understand that it may take a bit more patience than expected to get them going. I understand, Unohana Taishu. Unohana nodded. You're a smart girl, Sakura. I am proud of how far you've come since you joined my squad. I'm honored to have a young Shinigami of your talent working here. Sakura only blushed further. No, the pleasure is mine, Unohana Taishu. You've been so kind and helped me move all the way from unseated officer to my current position. You and Isane have both been a major help to my improvement. Unohana laughed, so modest too. She let go of Sakura's shoulders as she headed out of her office, a silent gesture for Sakura to follow. The pink-haired girl followed. Sakura, how many 4th Division recruits make it through their first decade in service? I don't know, Taicho. Unohana frowned a bit as she thought of the answer. 20% has been the recorded high for unseated 4th Division members who have served under my squad in the last decade. She sighed. The percentage is halved after 15, and becomes less than 6% in 20 years. Sakura bowed her head, understanding the various reasons. 4th Division members were expected to heal any they could. The amount of respect they received was much less than they deserved. They were left open for any and all attacks while healing the wounded in battle. That was the reason why Sakura had created the Combat and Field Medics Corps 4. She wished to prevent those statistics from increasing. Those are rather disturbing statistics, Unohana Taishu. Retsu Unohana gave a sad nod. It is, isn't it? She was now standing outside of her headquarters, walking along the roofed patio. Sakura, I'll do what I can to help with funds for your organization. In turn, you and Isane need only continue doing the amazing job that you are doing. Sakura gave a small bow, her face tinted pink. Thank you, Unohana Taishu. You're too kind. Unohana laughed. Sakura, learn to feel proud once in a while. I only give praise those who deserve it, after all. Sakura gave a final bow, though much shorter in duration. I understand, Taicho. I must be going now. I promised to meet with Momofuku Teichu for lunch. Very well, Sakura. I'll see you later, then. Unohana gave Sakura a nod as the pink-haired girl's sandaled feet padded down the wooden walkway in a mild run. Unohana smiled as she watched the girl disappear around a corner. That girl has a large amount of potential. I can only hope to live long enough to see her a half a millennium from now. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.